Tonight, we're exploring the complete history of the wizarding world before Harry Potter. This is a fascinating topic, but I'll keep my narration calm to ensure you can still drift off to sleep. Thank you to those of you who've been joining us consistently. If you're falling asleep with us tonight, let me know in the comments how many nights in a row you've been here. And if this is your first night, just comment night 1. Now back to the video. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine a world where the name Harry Potter has never been spoken. Imagine a time before the lightning bolt scar, before the boy who lived, and even before the rise and fall of Lord Voldemort. For most of us, our journey into the magical world began on a platform at King's Cross Station. But the story of magic does not begin with a letter delivered by an owl. It begins thousands of years earlier, in a world that looks nothing like the one we know. We are about to embark on a journey through the deep time of the wizarding world, travelling back to an era when wands were a revolutionary new technology, and when the 4 greatest witches and wizards of their age decided to build a castle in the Scottish Highlands. We often think of the wizarding world as a fixed, ancient thing, but it was forged in fire, secrecy, and conflict. Long before there was a ministry of magic, there were tribal healers and ancient sorcerers who didn't use wands at all, but instead shaped the very fabric of reality with their bare hands. We're going to look at the ancient origins of magic, from the dusty streets of ancient Europe, where the Ollivander family first began crafting wood and cord into tools of power, to the towering mountains of Africa, where the school of Uagadou taught students to point a finger and change the world. What drove these people into hiding? Why did the wizarding world, once so open and integrated with the mundane world, choose to vanish behind a veil of charms and memory wipes? The answer lies in the dark eras we are about to explore. We will witness the founding of Hogwarts, not as a fairy tale, but as a desperate act of survival during a time of rising persecution. We will see the ideological rift that tore the 4 founders apart, creating a shadow that would haunt the school for 1,000 years. We will uncover the truth behind the Deathly Hallows, separating the children's stories from the cold, hard artifacts of the Peverell brothers. This is a story of goblin rebellions that turned rivers red and international statutes that forced families to choose between their magic and their neighbours. It is a history of the Triwizard tournament, when it was truly a lethal endeavour, and the rise of the first dark tyrants, who paved the way for those who would follow. We're going to examine the centuries of evolution that turned a scattered collection of magical families into a global, secret society with its own laws, its own government, and its own deep, dark secrets. As we settle into the silence of the night, let the modern world of Harry Potter fade away. Let the sounds of the 20th century vanish. We are going back to the beginning. We're going back to the dawn of Wandless, the birth of the Great Hall, and the first whispers of the unforgivable curses. This is the foundation of everything you think you know. This is the secret history of the world behind the veil. The deeper we go into this history, the more we realise that the peace Harry Potter fought for was a fragile thing, built upon centuries of tension. Before there were Death Eaters, there were the pure-blood supremacists of the 10th century. Before there were auras, there was the Wizards' Council, trying to maintain order in a world that was rapidly turning against anything it couldn't understand. We will look at how the Salem witch trials in the Americas sent shockwaves across the Atlantic, forever changing how magic was practiced in the New World. We will see how the discovery of the invisibility cloak wasn't just a lucky find, but the culmination of a bloodline that stretched back to the very roots of magical theory. The stakes of this history are nothing less than the survival of magic itself. If Godric Gryffindor and his companions had failed, there would be no Hogwarts. If the International Statute of Wizarding Secrecy had never been signed in 1692, the world might have ended in a global war between those with wands and those without. Every charm, every potion, and every tradition in the modern era has a heartbeat that started centuries ago. So as the lights grow dim and the world outside becomes still, prepare yourself for a chronicle that spans 2,000 years. We are peeling back the layers of legend to find the truth of the Dark Eras. We're going to understand why the Chamber of Secrets was truly built, what the first ministers of magic were really afraid of, and how the wizarding world became the hidden masterpiece of architecture and culture that it is today. The journey starts now in the shadows of the ancient world, long before the boy who lived ever took his first breath. Let us begin. Long before the stone walls of Hogwarts rose in the misty Scottish Highlands, magic stirred in the world as a raw, untamed force woven into the fabric of existence itself. It wasn't the polished incantations of later centuries, but something primal, a flicker in the blood of certain humans, manifesting in the flicker of fire, summoned from bare hands, or the whisper that bent winds to a healer's will. These early sparks appeared sporadically across the globe, in the cradle of rivers like the Nile and the Euphrates, where the first communities huddled against the unknown. Picture the dawn of magic not as a single thunderclap event, but as a gradual awakening, evolving through the first human magical interactions that blurred the line between mortal and divine. In those twilight eras, perhaps 30,000 years ago, a child in a Siberian mammoth camp might have mended a broken bone with a touch that glowed faintly under moonlight, drawing gasps from the tribe, or a hunter in the African savannas could call birds from the sky to guide the hunt. His gestures precise and wandless, echoing the traditions that would one day define Uagadou. These weren't isolated anomalies, they were the seeds of a lineage, passed through bloodlines where the gift ignited unpredictably, turning ordinary gatherings into moments of awe. Families whispered of ancestors who danced with storms, and slowly, these gifted ones stepped forward, their abilities tested against famine, beast, and blight. As villages swelled into the first cities around 5,000 years before the Common Era, those interactions deepened, forging bonds that reshaped societies. In the sun-baked ziggurats of Mesopotamia, a woman with eyes like polished obsidian might brew elixirs from river reeds to staunch the plague, her chants pulling life from the brink. The people didn't call her witch, not yet, but priestess, her power a bridge to the heavens. Further south, along the Nile's eternal flood, pharaohs wielded staffs that parted waters or summoned locust swarms against foes, their tombs etched with spells that preserved flesh beyond death. These weren't mere rulers, they were the living gods of their realms, their magic a divine mandate that held empires together. Across the oceans, in the lush valleys of the Americas, shamans conversed with jaguars through mind-speak, their potions from jungle vines curing fevers that felled entire clans. And in the steppes of Europe, druidic figures read omens in the flight of ravens or the twist of oak roots, foretelling migrations or wars with chilling accuracy. Ancient civilizations viewed wizards, though the word was unborn then, as gods walking among them, their miracles invoked in cave frescoes and pyramid inscriptions. Healers who knit wounds with threads of light became legends, their herbs and gestures saving kings and peasants alike. Yet omens they were too, harbingers of fortune or fury. A wizard's rage might crack the earth, earning both reverence and a shiver of dread. Temples rose in their honour, offerings piled high, grains, blood, gold to coax the spark for bountiful harvests or victory in battle. You can almost hear the crackle of those early firesides, where stories swapped between magical kin and their non-magical brethren painted a world of shared wonder. A farmer might trade his finest wheat for a healer's balm, or a warrior boast of the seer who warned of ambush. Magic flowed freely then, a communal thread with no veils of secrecy. Children with the gift apprenticed under elders, learning to temper flames or glimpse futures in still pools, while Muggles, as we'd later name them, wove the tales into myths that echoed through generations. But harmony frays when power gleams too brightly, As populations boomed and resources thinned, whispers turned to suspicion. Why did the healer's child never sicken? How did the omen reader always know the raider's path? Your envy curdled into fear, especially when a miscast spark scorched a hut or a botched potion twisted limbs. Magical practitioners, sensing the shift, began to cluster apart, first in sacred groves, then hidden vales, teaching their young in shadowed clearings away from prying eyes. This early divergence between magical practitioners and the non-magical populace wasn't born of malice, but survival's quiet calculus. Families relocated under cover of night, broomsticks crude but skyward bound, carrying lore to safer hearths. Clans formed, bloodlines intertwined, and the open alliances of old gave way to guarded enclaves. In the cradle of the Mediterranean, Greek city-states hailed oracles whose visions rivaled Delphi's fumes. Yet even there, the gifted veiled their full might, performing only for the elite. Roman legions marched with augurs who divined eagle flights, but off the battlefield they dwelled in arcane villas, wards shimmering at the gates. Africa's nomadic tribes saw shapeshifters as spirit walkers, revered yet apart, their finger flicks conjuring rains that nourished but never fully shared. The rift widened with each generation, magical numbers too sparse to dominate, yet potent enough to inspire hunts. Sporadic at first, torches in the dark chasing shadows of the unnatural, centuries blurred into millennia, the primordial spark refining itself through trial and exile. Healers evolved into covens, trading secrets across trade winds. God kings passed scepters that hummed with latent spells. Omens became prophecies etched on scrolls that only the blood-gifted could fully decipher. Yet the world churned on, non-magical masses building wonders of stone and bronze, oblivious to the parallel tapestry where a child's accidental levitation might seal a village's fate. This fragile equilibrium teetered, demanding tools beyond gesture and will to harness the chaos. And that's where we arrive at 382 BC, the Ollivander legacy, a turning point that birthed the wand and forever changed how wizards touch their power. Stick around, because what one craftsman did next ignited a revolution you won't believe. As ancient healers and omens wandered the edges of those early civilizations, their raw power often surged like untamed storms, unpredictable and exhausting to wield. You can almost feel the strain in the old tales where a simple charm might demand hours of chanting under blood moons or dances around sacred fires, leaving wizards drained and vulnerable. But in 382 BC, one visionary, in the misty vales of what we now call Britain, forever tamed that chaos. His name was Ollivander, the first of his line, a solitary craftsman whispered about in druidic circles and forgotten Celtic groves. Picture him there, knee-deep in the fog-shrouded forests of ancient Albion, his hands scarred from years of wrestling magic's wild heart. Magic back then wasn't the flick of a wrist, from later stories. It was a primal force bubbling up from the earth's core, chaotic and hungry, slipping through fingers like smoke from a dying fire. Wizards channeled it through their bodies alone, but that meant every spell risked backlash. Limbs twisted, minds shattered, lives snuffed out in bursts of uncontrolled light. Ollivander saw the peril. He experimented in hidden hollows, carving the first wands from the heartwood of yew and hazel trees, those ancient sentinels that drank in moonlight and storms alike. But wood alone wouldn't hold the fury. He delved deeper, seeking cores that could bind the energy without breaking. Unicorn hairs plucked from moonlit meadows, phoenix feathers bartered from fiery rebirths, dragon heartstrings harvested in shadowed lairs. This was the revolutionary invention of the wand as a focus for raw, chaotic energy, a slender bridge between wizard and wild magic, turning floods of power into precise streams. No longer did you need a circle of stones or a coven's chant to summon wind or mend flesh. With a wand in hand, the shift from ritualistic magic to the precision of wooden core happened almost overnight. Feel the difference before. A healing rite might take a full night. Blood and herbs smeared across the ground, the air thick with incense and sweat. Now, a pointed stick, 10 inches of oak with a velar hair humming inside, could nip wounds in seconds. The glow steady and contained, like lightning caught in a bottle. Wizards across the isles marvelled, their spells sharper, their stamina endless. Ollivander's early prototypes weren't perfect. Some splintered under great curses, others chose their wielders with a stubborn will of their own, but they worked. Word spread like wildfire through trading posts and standing stones. Pilgrims trekked from Gaul to Germania, bartering gold and secrets for these miracles. Ollivander formalised it all by opening the first true wand shop in a crooked lane of what would become Diagon Alley's precursor, a timbered nook in a Muggle village that blurred into wizarding haze at dusk. Smoke curled from its chimney, carrying scents of varnish, phoenix ash, and fresh sawn elder. Shelves groaned under thousands of wands, each swathed in velvet, waiting for their match. This establishment of the first shop in Britain standardised European spellcasting in ways that reshaped the continent. Before Ollivander's, every wizard crafted their own foci, rough staffs of ash or bone amulets, but quality varied wildly, spells misfiring across borders. Now his methods became the blueprint, woods selected by lunar phase, cores tested for allegiance, wands won through ritual selection where the woods sang to the soul. European magic unified overnight. French enchanters adopted his yew for jewels, Germanic seers his holly for visions, Italian alchemists his vine for transmutations. Guilds formed around his lore, apprentices flocking to Britain, carrying crates of wands back home. You sense the transformation in the air of those times, the chants fading from hilltops, replaced by whispers of swish and flick. Battles between clans turned surgical, not spectacles of raw force. Prophecies etched themselves quicker into bark and stone. Ollivander's legacy endured through generations, his family guarding recipes scrawled on dragonhide, refusing to mass-produce, insisting each wand chose its wizard. By the time Rome crumbled, every self-respecting European spellcaster owned one, the wand as essential as breath. Yet not all corners of the world bowed to wooden core. Far across the seas, in sun-baked savannas where magic flowed free through gestures and stars, ancient schools thrived without such crutches. Their power was sovereign, unbound by tools, masters of forms Europe could only dream of. That story unfolds next in Chapter 3, Uagadou and the African Sovereignty, where finger-pointed charms outshone wands and secrets of the self reshaped the skies. While Europe refined its magic through the precise craft of wands, born from that pivotal shop in 382 BC, an entirely different tradition flourished across the African continent, one that rejected such tools altogether. Deep in the heart of the continent, where the night sky stretches endlessly like a velvet canopy pierced by 1,000,000 stars, Uagadou emerged as the world's largest wizarding school, its origins tracing back at least 1,000 years before the era of Harry Potter, dominating the landscape of magical education with unmatched scale and endurance. Picture the rugged mountains of the savannah, where Uagadou's students didn't attend through owls or letters, but through dream messengers, ethereal spirits that whispered invitations into the minds of the gifted during sleep. This school, vast enough to house thousands, predated Hogwarts by centuries, its stone-carved halls echoing with the chants of ancestors long before Europe's founders even dreamed of their castle. It outlasted countless smaller African academies, absorbing their knowledge and students as it grew into a sovereign power, a beacon of magical self-reliance that commanded respect from wizards across the globe. Egyptian pharaohs consulted its seers, West African kings sought its alchemists, and even distant traders carried tales of its prowess back to Europe, where whispers of Uagadou's might stirred both awe and envy. What set Uagadou apart wasn't just its size or age, but the sheer mastery of wandless magic that defined every spell cast within its bounds. African wizards viewed wands as unnecessary crutches, relics for those too frail to channel the raw pulse of magic directly from their bodies. Why rely on a stick of wood when your own fingers could summon lightning from the heavens or bend the wind to your will? They honed this art through gestures, a flick of the wrist to ignite flames, a pointed finger to levitate boulders the size of huts, or a subtle wave to heal wounds that would fell a lion. This wasn't mere convenience, it was philosophy. Wands, they believed, dulled the senses, creating a barrier between the wizard and the primal forces of the earth. In Uagadou's sun-baked courtyards, students trained barefoot on red dust plains, feeling the magic surge through their veins, like the Nile's floodwaters, unfiltered and fierce. Generations perfected this wandless prowess, turning everyday gestures into symphonies of power. A healer might trace runes in the air to knit flesh without a murmur, while warriors pointed to shatter shields or summon spectral beasts from the shadows of acacia trees. Self-transfiguration became their crown jewel, shifting forms not as a rare talent, but as a daily discipline, allowing students to mimic the grace of a gazelle across the plains or the soar of an eagle over the rift valleys. European visitors, clutching their precious cores of dragon heartstring or phoenix feather, often fumbled in awe, their spells faltering without that familiar grip. Uagadou's dominance stemmed from this purity. No workshops for wand lore here, only endless drills under the relentless sun, forging wizards who moved like the continent itself, unyielding, adaptive, boundless. Yet Uagadou's true heartbeat lay in its cultural reverence for astronomy and alchemy, disciplines elevated to sacred arts long before Europe's scholars formalized them in dusty tomes. Picture the school's observatory terraces, carved into cliff faces where the Milky Way spilled like a river of diamonds across the horizon. Astronomy wasn't stargazing for poets. It was divination woven into survival. Students mapped celestial paths to predict monsoons, align rituals with lunar phases, or commune with ancestral spirits riding comet tails. These practices stretched back to ancient Nile kingdoms, where priests calculated solstices to harness stellar energies for spells that bent time itself, echoes of which lingered in Uagadou's dream-summoning rites. Alchemy, too, predated Europe's alchemical frenzy by millennia, transforming Uagadou into a forge of wonders. In cavernous labs lit by glowing fungi, apprentices brewed elixirs from baobab sap and desert rose petals, transmuting base metals into tools of war or elixirs that granted visions of forgotten histories. They pursued the philosopher's stone not as a myth, but as a practical pursuit, blending herbal lore with stellar alignments to create potions that healed plagues or amplified magical cores. This emphasis shaped the school's curriculum from its earliest days, outpacing Europe's rigid universities by centuries. While Oxford debated the stars in the 14th century, Uagadou's astronomers had already charted galactic influences on human fate. Alchemical guilds within the school traded secrets with Arabian merchants, their gold to silver conversions funding expansions that swallowed rival institutions. This sovereignty extended beyond classrooms into governance. Uagadou wasn't just a school, it was a cultural empire, advising tribal leaders on enchantments for fertile rains or defences against Muggle incursions. Its graduates wove protective wards over villages, their wandless magic blending seamlessly with tribal rituals, drums pulsing in rhythm with levitation charms, fires dancing to finger flicks under starlit skies. 1,000 years of dominance bred legends, a grandmaster who summoned a sandstorm to bury an invading army, or an alchemist whose star-forged serum granted eternal youth to a queen. Even as Europe standardized its wandcraft, Africa's wizards looked skyward and inward, their power as vast and untamed as the Sahara itself. But shadows loomed on these horizons. As Muggle kingdoms grew bolder and persecution stirred in distant lands, even Uagadou's might faced tests that would ripple across the wizarding world. That tension builds toward Chapter 4. The Age of Persecution begins, where you'll uncover how these ancient strongholds were forced into hiding and the dark hunts that reshaped everything forever. Stick around, because the witch trials you think you know barely scratch the surface. While African wizards at Uagadou commanded the skies and stars with nothing but their gestures, perfecting a magic that needed no wooden crutch, Europe entered a shadowed chapter where that same power began to inspire dread instead of awe. Wand in hand or not, the early wizards who walked openly among Muggles, sharing remedies for plague-ridden villages, divining rains for barren fields, or mending bones shattered in feudal skirmishes, had long been woven into the fabric of daily life. They were the village healers, the seers at harvest festivals, the ones whose lights flickered unnaturally bright through cottage windows on moonless nights. Yet by the late first millennium, as kings consolidated power and churches preached of divine order, those flickers started to look less like blessings and more like threats. The transition from magical integration to the first signs of Muggle hostility crept in like fog over the moors. It began with uneasy glances at a child levitating toys in the town square, or a farmer's wife whispering that her neighbour's cow gave milk that never soured. Unnatural, they murmured, satanic. Whispers turned to accusations during lean winters when a wizard's accidental spark of warmth in a hearth might save a family from frostbite, but fuel rumours of pacts with the devil. In remote hamlets of England and Scotland, Muggle leaders, priests with fire in their sermons, lords guarding their thrones, started to paint magic not as a gift from the old gods, but as heresy that challenged their authority. Families who once bartered spells for bread now bolted their doors at dusk, sensing the chill of suspicion in every shared glance. This growing rift birthed the earliest witch-finders, grim figures who roamed from parish to parish like self-appointed inquisitors, armed not with wands, but with crude tools born of paranoia. These were no organised hunters yet, but village busybodies elevated to zealots, old crones with devil's marks they claimed to detect, or blacksmiths wielding dowsing rods twisted from hazel branches, convinced they could sniff out sorcery like water under soil. Their primitive methods to identify magical children were as brutal as they were absurd, dunking suspected young ones in icy village ponds, watching if they floated. Proof of buoyancy granted by dark buoyancy, they said, or pricking skin with needles for insensible spots where pain wouldn't register, marks of the infernal pack. A child's accidental bloom of flowers from barren dirt, or a burst of light to chase away rats from the granary, became damning evidence. They dragged howling toddlers from their mother's arms, parading them before mobs under torchlight, the air thick with the stench of fierce wheat and wood smoke. Imagine the terror in those hidden hearths, where a father's murmured lumos to guide his wandering daughter home now carried the weight of betrayal. Magical families, once proud in their gifts, shrank into the shadows of their own lives. Every sneeze from a babe scrutinized for unnatural sparks. Every fever dream pored over for prophetic omens. The psychological toll gnawed deepest at night, when parents lay awake listening to the wind, convinced it carried the crunch of footsteps from neighbours turned informants. Children learned to suppress their first sparks, biting lips until they bled to stifle a giggle that might summon butterflies, their innocence curdling into shame. Marriages frayed under the strain, spouses arguing in hushed tones over whether to flee to wilder hills or bind their child's magic with crude suppression charms passed down in whispers. Trust evaporated. A lifelong friend might report a glowing potion brew to save their own kin from the ducking stool. Villages that once rang with communal laughter now hummed with coded glances. Meals eaten in silence lest a floating spoon betray them. The constant dread etching lines into young faces long before time should claim them. In these years, around the turn of the 10th century, the air grew heavier with burnings at the stake, Small pyres at first, for the boldest healers who refused to hide. Smoke curled from thatched roofs mistaken for demon summoning, and rivers ran red from trials by ordeal. Wizards began clustering in concealed glens, sharing blood oaths of secrecy, their gatherings lit by dim wandlight that danced like will-o'-the-wisps. The old ways of open alliance shattered, replaced by a fragile vigilance, where a single child's untrained magic could doom an entire lineage. Goblin craftsmen, sensing the shift, started forging hidden compartments in wands for quick concealment, while ancient grimoires were buried under elder trees, their pages whispering warnings to the wind. Yet amid this encroaching darkness, 4 extraordinary figures stirred in the mists of Scotland, their paths converging like threads in a tapestry woven for survival. What they would assemble next would change everything, forging a sanctuary from the storm. Stay with me for Chapter 5. The 4 legends assemble, where their bold alliance ignites hope against the gathering peril, as the shadows of those early witch-finders lengthened across 10th century Britain, casting fear into every flicker of accidental magic from a frightened child. 4 extraordinary witches and wizards sensed the turning tide. They had watched Muggle villages turn from wary tolerance to outright hunts, torches blazing through the night as families were dragged from their homes for the sin of a spark or a whisper of power. These 4, Godric Gryffindor, Helga Hufflepuff, Rowena Ravenclaw and Salazar Slytherin, knew isolation was no longer enough. Scattered across the land, each had honed their gifts in solitude, evading the noose through cunning or strength. But the peril now demanded unity. Godric, a towering figure forged in the fires of border skirmishes, carried the scars of battles where his sword arm had saved both wizard and muggle alike, only to earn betrayal. Helga, with her gentle hands that could mend flesh or summon bountiful harvests from barren soil, had sheltered orphans of magic in hidden vales, her heart aching at the waste of young lives lost to panic. Rowena, whose mind pierced the veils of arcane knowledge like starlight through fog, pored over ancient tomes in windswept towers, dreaming of structures that could harness intellect against chaos. And Salazar, sharp-eyed and silver-tongued, navigated the courts of kings with spells veiled as diplomacy, his ambition a blade tempered by generations of pure wizardry. Their paths converged one storm-lashed evening in the year 990, or thereabouts, in a forgotten cavern beneath the Yorkshire moors. Rain hammered the earth above like the fists of vengeful gods, while inside, a fire crackled low, fed by Godric's wandless flick. They had heard whispers of each other through raven messengers and shared allies. Tales of a brave knight who duelled dragons, a healer who tamed wild herds, a sage who charted the stars' secrets, and a sorcerer whose serpents guarded forgotten lore. Drawn by the same dread, they met not as strangers, but as inevitable allies, their voices echoing off damp stone as they shared bread and mead. What began as wary exchanges, Godric's booming laugh clashing with Salazar's measured drawl, soon wove into a tapestry of resolve. They spoke of children, born with fire in their veins, hunted like beasts for gifts they could not control. Helga's eyes welled as she recounted a girl in her care, drowned in a village pond for levitating a doll. Rowena sketched runes in the dirt, calculating the flows of magic that bound the land. The fateful meeting of Godric, Helga, Rowena and Salazar in the 10th century marked the birth of a bold pact. They would build a bastion, a place where the young could thrive unseen. But where? England's lowlands teemed with prying eyes, its rivers choked with trade routes, where secrets spilled like ale from a drunkard's cup. The 4 turned their gaze northward, to the wild spine of the Scottish Highlands, those ancient peaks, cloaked in perpetual mist and lashed by gales that could strip flesh from bone, offered more than isolation. The land thrummed with primordial magic, ley lines snaking through granite tors, locks that swallowed light and spat back illusions, forests where trees whispered wards older than druids. Fierce clans roamed the glens, their own superstitions shielding the unwary, while Selkies and Kelpies patrolled the waters. natural sentinels against intruders. Muggles who ventured too far spoke of vanishing paths and ghostly lights, turning back with tales that bred fear rather than pursuit. The strategic selection of the Scottish Highlands for its natural magical protection felt like destiny itself. Rowena's divinations confirmed it. The site's cliffs rose like the vertebrae of a slumbering giant, channeling enchantments effortlessly. Godric tested the winds, his cloak billowing as he dueled tempests that bent oaks like reeds. Helga felt the earth's pulse, rich soil promising endless sustenance. Salazar traced runes along a black lake's edge, sensing the shadow's willingness to conspire. Here, in this cradle of raw power, their castle could hide in plain sight. Charms layering over nature's own deceptions, appearing to Muggle eyes as crumbling ruins haunted by banshees. Yet their vision stretched beyond stone and spellwork. Hogwarts would not merely be a school, drilling incantations into rote minds. No, it was conceived as a sanctuary, a hearth in the storm for the persecuted. Imagine young witches fleeing torch-wielding mobs, apparating through the night to these walls, where feasts awaited in great halls and dormitories burrowed deep into mountain hearts. Lessons would blend with refuge. Godric teaching duels to fend off hunters, Helga brewing elixirs for weary souls, Rowena unlocking libraries that breathed with enchanted pages, Salazar imparting the subtle arts of survival. They dreamed of a sorting rooted in essence, not blood houses, to nurture every facet of the magical spirit, ensuring no child was cast adrift. As they pored over parchments by firelight, sketching towers that pierced the clouds and greenhouses, blooming under eternal spring charms, cracks hinted in their harmony. Godric championed the bold and reckless, Helga the steadfast and kind, Rowena the quick-witted and curious. But Salazar, his eyes lingered on lineages, murmuring of blood's purity amid the rising tide of Muggle-born sparks. The sanctuary's foundations were laid in unity, yet shadows stirred beneath. Thank you to those of you who've been joining us night after night. Drop in the comments how many evenings in a row you've drifted off with these tales. If this is pulling you towards sleep, let the Highlands mists carry you there. Up next, Chapter 6, The Architect of Ambition, Salazar Slytherin. What drove this enigmatic founder to craft secrets within secrets? And how did his vision twist the heart of their grand design? You won't want to miss the unravelling. With the rugged cliffs of the Scottish Highlands shielding their new sanctuary, the four founders turned their vision into stone and spellwork. But it was Salazar Slytherin who envisioned the deepest foundations. A master of ancient runes and serpentine charms, Slytherin hailed from the fenlands of England, where his family had long guarded pure magical bloodlines against dilution. Tall and severe, with eyes like polished obsidian, he poured his cunning into the castle's labyrinthine dungeons, crafting halls that whispered secrets to those ambitious enough to listen. As Hogwarts took shape in the 10th century, Slytherin's ambition sharpened into conviction. He believed magic was a sacred inheritance, passed only through those whose veins carried its untainted fire. Muggle-borns, he argued, brought chaos into their midst, unpredictable sparks that could ignite Muggle persecutions anew. You felt the chill of those early witch hunts we discussed last time. Slytherin saw them not as isolated cruelties, but as harbingers. What if a Muggle-born student's slip exposed the school? What if their divided loyalty summoned torches to the gates? His warnings echoed through candlelit council chambers, where the founders debated late into the misty nights. Godric Gryffindor dismissed it all with a laugh, his sword ever at his side, insisting bravery welcomed all who hungered for magic. Helga Hufflepuff nodded warmly, her hands kneading dough for communal feasts, valuing loyalty above lineage. Rowena Ravenclaw arched a brow, her quill scratching arguments for intellect unbound by birth. But Slytherin stood firm, his voice a low hiss amid the crackling hearth. The ideological rift regarding blood purity and the safety of the school widened like a fault line beneath the castle. He feared not just external threats, but internal rot. Muggle-borns, he claimed, weakened the Wizarding World's defences, making Hogwarts a beacon for destruction in an age when Muggles burned anything that glowed unnaturally. Tension simmered through the first enrolments. Slytherin watched as children of Muggle stock arrived, wide-eyed and fumbling, their magic raw and untrained. He taught them still, his lessons laced with subtle tests, potions that revealed hidden frailties, charms that faltered under impure intent. Whispers spread among his favoured students, those of ancient wizarding stock, who gathered in the emerald-lit Slytherin common room he had hewn from the lake's depths. There, amid silver serpents coiling on tapestries, they debated his vision. A school for the elite, safeguarding magic's purity against the encroaching mundane world. Yet Slytherin acted in shadows. Deep beneath the castle, where torchlight barely pierced the gloom, he began his most audacious project. Using transfiguration spells, lost to later ages and basilisk lore from Egyptian tombs, he constructed the Chamber of Secrets as a hidden insurance policy. Vast and echoing, its corridors twisted like veins through solid rock, sealed by a serpentine lock that yielded only to Parseltongue. The tongue of serpents, he alone among the founders spoke fluently. Within lay his ultimate guardian, a monstrous basilisk hatched from a chicken's egg under a toad's care, its yellow eyes death to any who met them directly. Slytherin embedded enchantments, ensuring it would awaken only at his heir's command, to purge the school of those he deemed unworthy. It was his contingency, a silent vow that if blood purity faltered, Hogwarts would cleanse itself. For years, he concealed it masterfully, layering disillusionment charms and false flaws while the castle above bustled with harmony. Students from all houses mingled in the Great Hall, their laughter bouncing off enchanted ceilings that mirrored starry skies. Slytherin played the dutiful founder, contributing basilisk fang quills to the library and ambition-fueling elixirs to the potion stores. But cracks appeared. A Muggle-born girl, gifted in charms, outshone his pure-blood prodigies. Rumours swirled of Slytherin's favouritism towards serpents over students. Gryffindor confronted him first, their wands drawn in the trophy room, voices rising like thunder over the lock. The final confrontation erupted one storm-lashed evening in the Founder's private tower. Rain lashed the arrow-slit windows as Slytherin unveiled his fears once more, slamming a fist on the oaken table etched with house crests. Accusations flew. Gryffindor roared of betrayal. Hufflepuff wept for fractured unity. Ravenclaw dissected his logic with icy precision. Slytherin countered with visions of doom. Muggle armies at the gates, sparked by a single loose-tongued half-blood. In rage, he revealed a glimpse of the chamber's entrance, the stone sink hissing open at his Parseltongue command. Horror gripped the room. They demanded its destruction. He refused, eyes blazing. No duel broke out. Their bonds, forged in persecution's fire, held just long enough for bitter words to sever them. Salazar Slytherin departed the castle that night, his cloak billowing like a shadow into the howling gale. He left no farewell, only a legacy carved in stone and spite. Hogwarts stood without him, the three remaining founders sealing the chamber as best they could, vowing to honour all talents. Yet his rift lingered, a serpent's venom in the school's veins, fueling pure-blood whispers for centuries. Students spoke of him in hushed tones, wondering if his heir would one day return. But before vanishing into legend, Slytherin wove one final enchantment, a tattered hat imbued with the founder's essences, destined to sort the worthy. Its first song would echo through the Great Hall, binding houses in ways he never foresaw. Next time, in Chapter 7, the Sorting Hat's first song, you'll hear those very verses that set the wizarding world in motion. Words that could hush even the rowdiest feast and decide fates forever. Drift off now as the castle settles into uneasy peace. As the echoes of Salazar Slytherin's footsteps faded from the castle corridors, his chamber of secrets sealed away like a venomous secret. The remaining founders gathered in the torchlit Great Hall, their faces etched with resolve amid the rift he had torn open. Godric Gryffindor paced with his sword. At his side, Helga Hufflepuff stirred a pot of soothing draughts, and Rowena Ravenclaw sketched runes on parchment, all pondering the future of their fledgling school without their fourth pillar. But Slytherin had not vanished without one last stroke of cunning brilliance. He left them the Sorting Hat, an enchanted relic born from Godric's own battered travelling cap, now brimming with the collective wisdom of all four founders. This was no ordinary hat. Slytherin, ever the master of subtle magics, had woven an enchantment into its frayed fabric to preserve the founders' judgment long after their deaths, ensuring their visions for Hogwarts endured through every generation. Picture the scene. Under a canopy of enchanted stars twinkling in the enchanted ceiling, Slytherin placed the hat upon a stool carved from ancient yew, with a chant that blended their four voices: Gryffindor's bold timbre, Hufflepuff's warm cadence, Ravenclaw's precise lilt, and his own silken whisper. The hat absorbed fragments of their minds. Godric poured in his unyielding sense of courage, the fire that drove men to face dragons bare-handed. Helga infused it with her loyalty, the quiet strength that bound communities through famine and flood. Rowena gifted her intellect, sharp as a sphinx's riddle, dissecting the stars and secrets of the universe. And Slytherin added his ambition, the serpentine drive to rise above the ordinary, tempered by cunning that could outwit fate itself. The hat quivered, its brim stretching like waking lips, now a living archive of their souls, destined to peer into the hearts of children and place them where they truly belonged. On the eve of the first true sorting ceremony, around 990 AD, the Great Hall swelled with the nervous chatter of the earliest students, wide-eyed witches and wizards from hidden glens and persecuted hamlets across the British Isles. Torches flickered against stone walls, draped in banners of undecided colours, and the scent of fresh-baked treacle tarts from Helga's kitchens hung in the air. The founders stood tall at the high table, their robes whispering like autumn leaves. Godric lifted the hat high, and it burst into song for the very first time, its voice gravelly yet melodic, carrying through the hall like wind through ancient pines. Oh, listen close, ye young and bold, to tales of four who built this hold. Gryffindor sought the brave of heart, who charged through fire, ne'er torn apart. Hufflepuff cherished the loyal true, with toil and kindness, ever anew. Ravenclaw prized the keen of mind, who chased the stars that stars can't find. Slytherin favoured the shrewd and sly, with cunning guile to touch the sky. Yet unity binds us, four as one, in Hogwarts halls our work begun. Choose your house, but heed this call, strength in difference, lest we all fall. The hall fell silent as the last note faded, then erupted in whispers. That first song wasn't mere rhyme. It was a manifesto, embedding the founders' preserved judgment into the stone of the school itself. The hat delved into each child's mind, weighing traits against the founders' immortal criteria, sorting them not by birth but by potential. A red-haired boy with a defiant spark became the first Gryffindor, his table igniting in cheers. A sturdy girl with patient hands joined Hufflepuff, surrounded by warm embraces. A bespectacled youth unravelling riddles on the spot claimed Ravenclaw's blue, and a pale lad with calculating eyes slithered into Slytherin's green, his ambition already gleaming. From those opening nights, the house system blossomed into a competitive yet fiercely protective internal ecosystem, mirroring the medieval clans of Scotland's wild moors. Rivalries sparked like flint on steel, Gryffindors challenging Slytherins to duels at dawn, Ravenclaws outwitting Hufflepuffs in arcane debates. But beneath the banter lay unbreakable bonds. Within houses, students formed lifelong kinships, sharing dormitories warded by house elves loyal only to their colours, feasting at tables groaning under platters of roast boar and pumpkin pasties. This structure shielded the young from the outer world's perils. Muggle witch hunters prowling the lowlands with pitchforks and pyres. Houses competed for the house cup, tallied by points for spells mastered and pranks pulled, fostering excellence without isolation. Gryffindors honed bravery in mock battles. Hufflepuffs perfected endurance through communal labours, Ravenclaws delved into forbidden tomes, and Slytherins plotted intricate charms. It was a delicate balance, competition sharpening skills, while protection nurtured the vulnerable, ensuring Hogwarts thrived as a self-sustaining world unto itself. In those earliest years, before the curriculum hardened into the rigid subjects we know today, learning flowed like the Black Lake's mists, fluid, personal, and alive with the founder's direct touch. No timetables pinned classes to bells. Instead, students apprenticed under their house heads in sun-dappled courtyards or candle-lit dungeons. Godric Gryffindor taught broomless flight and wandless combat on the wind-swept cliffs, his laughter booming as 11-year-olds tumbled into heather, learning to rise unafraid. Helga Hufflepuff gathered them in herbology hollows, hands deep in soil, brewing potions from moonlit mandrakes and whispering charms for healing the homesick heart. Rowena Ravenclaw led starlit vigils in the astronomy tower, her quill scratching transfiguration theorems that bent reality like parchment, while Salazar Slytherin, before his full departure, unveiled legilimency in shadowed alcoves, teaching the art of reading desires like open scrolls. Potions bubbled without recipes, defense against the dark arts wove tales of ancient beasts, and charms danced on fingertips. Houses specialized subtly. Slytherins delved deepest into curses and antidotes, Gryffindors into raw power, creating a tapestry of knowledge that evolved with each cohort. Standardization came later. In the 12th century, as student numbers swelled and the Wizards' Council demanded order. But those first decades pulsed with raw magic, unscripted and wondrous. The Sorting Hat's first song lingered in legends, recited by prefects to wide-eyed first years for centuries, a reminder that the founder's judgment watched eternally from its perch. Yet even as houses solidified and lessons took shape, a deeper sorrow stirred in the castle's heart, one that would claim a life dear to Rowena herself. Up next in Chapter 8, The Tragedy of the Grey Lady, we'll uncover the heartbreaking betrayal that turned a mother's diadem into a cursed shadow, haunting Hogwarts to this day. As the Sorting Hat's song echoed through the Great Hall for the first time, sorting young witches and wizards into houses that mirrored the founder's deepest values. Ravenclaw's blue and bronze banners fluttered with promise. Rowena Ravenclaw herself had designed that house for the sharpest minds, those who prized wit and learning above all. Yet even in those early days of unity and competition, a shadow lingered within her own family, one that would haunt the towers of Hogwarts forever. Rowena's daughter, Helena, grew up in the glow of her mother's brilliance, surrounded by ancient tomes and enchanted artifacts in the hidden chambers of the castle. Helena was no ordinary girl. She possessed a keen intelligence all her own, but it burned with a restless fire. You can almost feel the chill of those stone corridors as Helena paced them late into the night, her footsteps echoing softly against the walls lined with flickering torches. Her mother, Rowena, was not just a founder, she was a visionary, crafting spells that bent the very fabric of reality. Her diadem, a crown of silver wrought with the most intricate runes, said to enhance the wearer's wisdom beyond mortal limits. It was no mere trinket. Whispers among the castle's inhabitants claimed it sharpened thoughts like a whetstone on steel, allowing the wearer to pierce veils of ignorance that confounded even the greatest scholars. But Helena's admiration twisted into something darker. Envy festered in her heart, not for Rowena's power, but for the pedestal upon which the wizarding world placed her. Helena yearned to eclipse that legacy, to be seen not as the daughter trailing in her shadow, but as a luminary in her own right. One stormy evening, as thunder rumbled over the Scottish Highlands, Helena slipped into her mother's private study. The air hung heavy with the scent of aged parchment and simmering potions. There, atop a velvet cushion, sat the diadem, its gems catching the firelight like distant stars. With trembling hands, she lifted it, feeling its cool weight settle upon her brow. In that moment, she convinced herself it was hers by right, stolen not out of malice, but ambition. She vanished into the night, the diadem hidden beneath her cloak, fleeing across the seas to the wild, mist-shrouded mountains of Albania, where ancient magic still whispered through forgotten groves and crumbling ruins. Word of the theft spread like mist through the castle, but Rowena, ever composed, kept her grief veiled behind a mask of intellect. She confided in few, turning instead to her most trusted ally, the Baron, a nobleman from a rival house, whose affections for Helena had long been evident. Tall and brooding, with a temper as fierce as a winter gale, he had courted her ardently, showering her with gifts and vows of eternal devotion. Rowena implored him to bring her daughter back, appealing to his love and his honour. The Baron, his heart aflame with a mix of loyalty and obsession, set off in pursuit, his horse's hooves pounding the earth as he crossed borders and braved treacherous paths. Albania was a land of jagged peaks and endless fog, where Muggle tribes still revered old gods and shunned outsiders. Helena had sought refuge there. Believing its isolation would shield her from judgment, she wandered its valleys, the Diadem, granting her visions of arcane knowledge that thrilled and terrified her. But the Baron tracked her relentlessly, his silhouette cutting through the haze like a spectre. When he finally cornered her in a forsaken hollow, his pleas turned to rage. Helena spurned him, clutching the diadem tighter, declaring her independence from both him and her mother's shadow. In a fit of jealous fury, he drew his blade, the steel flashing cold in the Albanian moonlight. Her blood stained the earth, and with her last breath, Helena's spirit lingered, forever the Grey Lady, translucent and sorrowful, doomed to haunt the place of her betrayal. The Baron, struck by remorse, turned the dagger on himself, his chains clinking eternally as the bloody Baron, his robes torn and bloodied, but the true wound cut deeper still. In his final moments before pursuing Helena, the Baron had confessed the grim truth to Rowena, revealing not just the location but the depths of Helena's defiance. Rowena, already weakened by illness, learned of her daughter's fate only after it was too late. Her own flesh and blood had not only stolen her greatest creation, but rejected the life she had built at Hogwarts. This family betrayal etched a permanent scar on the Ravenclaw legacy, a rift that echoed through generations. The House of Intellect, meant to celebrate wisdom, became synonymous with unspoken loss. Portraits in the common room averted their eyes, and the Grey Lady herself roamed the towers, offering cryptic counsel to Ravenclaws who dared approach, her warnings laced with the bitterness of what might have been. That diadem, lost in Albania's wilds for centuries, would resurface in the hands of darker forces, twisted into an object of unimaginable horror. Yet the Grey Lady's tragedy reminds us how even the purest pursuits, knowledge, love, legacy, can unravel into ghosts that never rest. The Founder's grand vision, so carefully sorted by the hat into houses of strength, bore personal fractures that time could not mend. And as we leave the echoing halls of Ravenclaw behind, prepare yourself for Chapter 9. Quidditch Marsh, the birth of Quidditch, where a chaotic game on broomsticks emerges from the mists, blending peril and joy in ways that would forever thrill the wizarding world. While Helena Ravenclaw vanished into the Albanian wilds, pursued by a love turned to bloody obsession, the wizarding communities of England turned to simpler pursuits amid the growing shadows of persecution. In the sodden heart of the West Country, Quidditch Marsh stretched like a living trap, its peaty bogs swallowing the unwary under curtains of perpetual mist. Here in the late 10th century, young witches and wizards first took to the air on rudimentary brooms, not for escape or battle, but for raw, reckless sport. Gertie Keddle, a no-nonsense witch who tended the marsh's edges in what we now call the 11th century, captured these wild beginnings in her weathered diary. Her entries, discovered centuries later, tucked in a Gringotts vault, paint a vivid picture of chaos disguised as play. She scribbled furiously one foggy morning in 1123, noting how a gang of local lads from nearby villages hurtled low over the reeds on their scrubby broom twigs, chasing a battered leather bladder inflated with wind from a switching spell. These weren't the polished firebolts of later eras. They were gnarled branches enchanted, just enough to hover a few feet above the treacherous ground, splintering under strain and dumping riders into sucking mud. Gertie didn't mince words. "Pesky flying fools again today," she wrote on June the 15th. 11 of them this time, pelting that foul sack thing at each other, whilst dodging the marsh's grindelows. One lad near drowned when his broom snapped mid-dive. Had to fish him out myself with a summoning charm. They've no respect for the bog's perils. Her pages brim with frustration, detailing how players scored by forcing the bladder through haphazardly woven wreaths of willow hung from crooked poles, precursors to goal hoops, though back then they swayed wildly in the wind, ensnaring capes and hair alike. No bludgers yet, but the marsh provided its own brutal hazards. Carnivorous plants snapping at broomtails, sudden sinkholes that yanked players downward, and swarms of biting pixies stirred up by the whooshing brooms. Gertie tallied at least a dozen near-fatal tumbles in her logs, her ink smudged with bog water from her own interventions. What started as this hazardous lark among bored youths quickly spread, fueled by the thrill of broom flight, in an age when wands were still evolving and skies felt like unclaimed territory. By the 12th century, informal matches drew crowds from as far as the Welsh borders, with Gertie grudgingly admitting in her later entries that the broomstick game, as she dubbed it, brought a spark of joy to hard-scrabble lives. Yet danger defined it. The bladder often burst mid-game, showering players with enchanted air that sent them spinning, and collisions splintered bones as often as they sparked cheers. Gertie's final note, dated 1128, laments a particularly grim day. 20 players today, but 3 carried off on stretchers. If they must play, let them raise their own hoops and quit trampling my cabbages. From these muddy origins, the broomstick game evolved relentlessly, shedding its swamp-born savagery over centuries into the structured spectacle we know as Quidditch. Wizards' councils, still in their infancy before the ministry's rise, began imposing basic edicts by the 13th century. Limits on player numbers to 7 per side, the introduction of weighted balls to replace the fragile bladder, and brooms standardised for fairer flight. Beaters emerged first, wielding enchanted bats to fend off the marsh's lingering threats. Their roles formalised as crowds demanded protection from rogue pixie dives and hurled debris. Keepers guarded the hoops, now elevated and rigid, while chasers honed passes with precision charms. The pitch migrated from perilous bogs to flattened fields, ringed by anti-apparition wards, turning local rivalries into village leagues that spanned Britain. This transformation peaked in the 1500s, when international play took root, with French and Bulgarian envoys witnessing matches that blended raw athleticism with spectacular spellwork. Rules codified in the Quidditch rulebook of 1617 banned the most lethal hazards, yet preserved the heart-pounding chase. What truly revolutionised it, though, was the Seeker's role, born from a cruel innovation that haunts the sport's lore even now. The Golden Snitch arrived amid a wave of enchantment in the early 16th century, but its predecessors was no mechanical marvel. It was the Snidget, a tiny golden bird prized for its speed and iridescent wings. Breeders from the Fenland clans first released live Snidgets into games around 1595, awarding 150 points to the player who caught it mid-air, a prize that dwarfed goal scores and turned matches into frenzied hunts. The birds darted like living comets, evading brooms with instinctive rolls and dives, their plumage shimmering against storm clouds. Crowds roared as seekers, then called hunters barreled through flocks, snatching Snidgets from beaks or claws. Tragedy shadowed this golden age. Snidgets, fiercely intelligent and bound to their mates for life, suffered immensely. Thousands perished annually, crushed in fists or trampled post-capture. Protests swelled from witch naturalists, led by one Elfrida Clegg, who chained herself to a goalpost in 1610. Her pamphlet Snidgets Under Siege, sparking outrage. By 1612, The practice ended abruptly after a match where a record 210 Snidgets escaped into the stands, biting spectators and halting play in pandemonium. Bowman Wright of Godric's Hollow, a tinier metalsmith with a soft spot for the birds, enchanted a golden egg with Snidget-like speed and reflexes. Winged, elusive, worth 150 points and utterly indestructible, the first snitch flew at Quidditch in 1613, sealing the sport's modern form and honouring the lost birds in its gleam. Quidditch Marsh faded from pitches after that, reclaimed by fog and forgetfulness, but its legacy soars in every Quidditch roar. As the sport bounded toward global leagues, deeper tales stirred in the shadows of the 13th century, tales of brothers who defied death itself. Up next, Chapter 10. The Peverell brothers and the 13th century beckons with artifacts that blur legend and blood-soaked truth, pulling us toward the Hallows' enigmatic birth. As broom games turned deadly in the swamps of Quidditch Marsh, Wizarding Britain in the 13th century witnessed a different kind of peril brewing among three brothers surnamed Peverell. These men, Antioch, Cadmus, and Ignotus, weren't figments of a fireside fable, but flesh and blood wizards of formidable skill, their names etched into genealogical scrolls that trace back through pure bloodlines, including centuries later to a boy named Harry Potter himself. Historical records, pieced together from dusty ministry archives and family grimoires, paint the Peverells as ambitious enchanters operating from a fortified manor in the shadowed vales of medieval England. They weren't wandering tale spinners, evading death on a rickety bridge, as the myth would have it. No, that enchanting parable from the tale of the three brothers in Beadle the Bard's collection weaves a moral veil over stark reality. The story simplifies their triumphs into symbols of hubris, longing and humility, death's gifts of a wand, stone and cloak. But the brothers crafted these deathly hallows themselves, through rituals steeped in blood magic and forbidden alchemy, drawing power from ancient ley lines that pulsed beneath their homeland. Antioch, the eldest, obsessed over supremacy in duels that left opponents shattered like porcelain under a blasting curse. He poured his soul into forging the Elder Wand, that sleek, unyielding rod of elder wood and thestral haircore, its creation demanding a moonless night in a circle of sacrificed dragon hearts. Legends whisper he slew a rival wandmaker whose essence infused the wand's unbeatable allegiance, binding it to conquer any foe. You can almost feel the chill of that ritual chamber, the air thick with ozone and the metallic tang of spilled life force, as sparks leaped from Antioch's fingertips, tempering the wood in flames that burned white hot without consuming. Cadmus, driven by grief over a lost love, perhaps a witch felled in one of those early Muggle persecutions, turned to resurrection. His resurrection stone emerged from a philosopher's stone variant, ground from obsidian quarried in cursed barrows, and etched with runes that pulled echoes from the veil between worlds. Not true revival, but a haunting apparition, translucent and yearning, that drove him to madness in his tower. The stone's glow, a sickly emerald pulse, lured shades who whispered half-truths, their voices like wind through cracked tombs, reminding us why meddling with the dead unravels the living. Ignotus, the wisest, wove the invisibility cloak from spider silk, enchanted with veils torn from Dementor shrouds, rendering it flawless, impervious to detection charms or fiend fire. He passed it down his line, an heirloom of stealth that outlasted wars, hiding secrets in its folds. These weren't death's haphazard boons, but deliberate masterpieces, born of the Peverell's genius and their era's desperation. As wizard-muggle clashes escalated, dark wizards vied for dominance. Yet the Elder One's legacy drips with gore, a crimson thread stitching through medieval chronicles. Antioch brandished it first, cutting down dozens in tavern brawls and forest ambushes, his boasts echoing until a shadowy assassin, some say a jealous cursebreaker, slipped into his bedchamber one stormy eve in the 1200s and claimed it, only to fall to the next claimant in a duel by Hadrian's Wall. Emeric the Evil wrested it amid goblin skirmishes, his reign ending in a poisoned chalice at a Yuletide feast. Egbert the Egregious, a hulking brute from the fens, wielded it to smash rivals' skulls, but drank his own ruin in a wizarding tourney gone foul. On it went, through hands stained by vendettas and betrayals, Godlot locking it in a gold-filled vault, only for his son to murder him for the prize. The notorious Loxias, whose experiments birthed screams that haunted Dover's cliffs, even into the 1400s with Barnabas Deverell, cutlass in one hand, wand in the other, until Arcus or Livius, historians squabble, dispatched him in a blaze of curses. Each master craved its power, but the wand demanded blood loyalty, turning wielders into targets. Their triumphs brief flares before oblivion. The cloak and stone faded into whispers, coveted but elusive, while the wand carved a path of pyres and unmarked graves, a reminder that true mastery invites the grave's envy. This era's shadows deepened, as inter-school rivalries simmered, birthing traditions far bloodier than broom chases. Next in Chapter 11, the Triwizard Tournament. A bloody tradition. We'll uncover how champions faced dragons and worse in a spectacle that forged alliances or buried them. What perils awaited those selected by the Goblet of Fire? Before we dive deeper into this incredible journey, I'm curious, in the world are you watching this from? Drop a comment below and let our global community know. And if you're finding this as mind-blowing as I am, hit that like button to help more people discover this story. As the echoes of the Peverell brothers faded into the mists of the 13th century, a new ritual of risk emerged to bind the wizarding world's fractured schools. In 1294, heads of three great institutions gathered under a blood moon at Hogwarts, forging the Triwizard Tournament, a contest born not from idle sport, but from the raw necessity of unity. Europe's magical community simmered with unrest. Goblin rebellions flared across Britain, their forges spitting sparks of defiance against wizard overlords. Dark wizards roamed the shadowed forests of the continent, whispering curses that twisted loyalties and summoned plagues upon villages. Muggle kings rallied inquisitors, their pyres lighting the night skies, forcing witches and wizards deeper into hiding. In these darkening times, isolation bred suspicion. Old alliances frayed like worn broom twigs. The heads, Hogwarts' own Bartimus Crouch the Elder, Madame Olympe Maxime's predecessor at Bogsburton's, and Durmstrang's stern Igor Karkaroff ancestor, saw the peril. They designed the Triwizard Tournament to forge international cooperation, a brutal pact where champions from each school would face shared trials, proving that survival demanded trust across borders. Picture the ancient castle grounds transformed. Massive stone amphitheatres rose overnight, carved by wand flicks from the living rock of the Black Lake's shore. Torches flickered in the Highland chill, casting long shadows over banners of scarlet and gold for Hogwarts, periwinkle blue for Bogsburton's graceful delegates, and blood red for Durmstrang's fur-clad warriors. Thousands converged, wizards from hidden hamlets, envoys on broomsticks sweeping in from distant peaks, their breaths fogging the air thick with anticipation and the metallic tang of lake mist. The Goblet of Fire, that ancient relic of enchanted yew, stood sentinel in a ring of blue-white flames, its wood etched with runes older than the founders themselves. Champions' names, scratched on parchment, fluttered into its blaze, selected not by favour, but by fate's impartial hunger. The first task unfolded at dawn's fragile light. A colossal dragon, scales like hammered iron, eyes burning with primal fury, guarded a golden egg amid jagged crags summoned from the earth. Hogwarts champion, a burly Gryffindor with a wand of dragon heartstring, dodged gouts of fire that scorched the heather black. Bogsburton's witch, lithe and veiled in silk, transfigured boulders into swarms of birds to blind the beast. Durmstrang's brute wrestled it bare-handed, his curses booming like thunderclaps. Cheers erupted as the egg was claimed, but blood already stained the stones. A severed arm here, charred flesh there, yet the crowds roared on, toasting with fire whiskey that warmed against the gathering storm clouds. Weeks later, the second trial plunged into the Black Lake's abyssal depths. Merpeople's tridents gleamed through murky green waters, their songs a haunting lure that dragged the unwary under. Champions breathed spells of gill and fin, racing against merfolk spears and Grindelwald claws that tore robes to ribbons. One emerged blue-lipped, clutching a stolen hostage, a fellow student's enchanted likeness, while another's screams bubbled up faintly before silencing forever. The air above crackled with spells to warm the shivering victors, but whispers spread of drownings in prior years, of bodies never recovered from the murk. The third task sealed the saga in a vast maze woven from yew hedges tall as a castle towers, thorns dripping venom that burned like liquid stink sap. Acromantula webs ensnared the bold, blast-ended scroots rampaged, their tails exploding in showers of shrapnel. Riddles from sphinxes guarded false paths, their voices slithering like smoke. Champions vanished into the labyrinth's heart, wands flashing bursts of light that briefly illuminated horrors within. Hours stretched into night. Flares signaled rescues, but not all returned whole. The Durmstrang victor stumbled out clutching the Triwizard Cup, his face a mask of triumph and terror, robes rent by unseen fangs. For decades, the tournament pulsed with this rhythm, glory laced with gore. Champions trained in secrecy, forging bonds over tankards in Hogwarts' Great Hall, sharing spells from distant grimoires. Bogsbaton's elegant charms, Durmstrang's raw dark arts, Hogwarts' resilient cunning. It worked at first. Treaties followed victories. Goblin uprisings quelled through loned Durmstrang berserkers, Muggle hunts repelled by united fronts, but the rising death toll cast a pall. By the early 14th century, records etched in the Hogwarts library spoke of 20 fatalities in a single decade, dragons that broke free, mazes that swallowed souls, lakes yielding bloated corpses weeks later, a Bogsbaton's champion impaled on sphinx claws, a Hogwarts boy petrified eternally by basilisk gaze smuggled into the tasks. Spectators perished too, stampeded in the stands, stray curses igniting robes. The goblet's flame seemed hungrier each year, selecting the reckless, the doomed. Panic rippled through the councils. Protests swelled from parents, whose children vanished into the trials. In 1492, 4 centuries before the Statute of Secrecy, the heads convened once more, the goblet cold and accusing between them. They suspended the tournament indefinitely, its bloody tradition buried under oaths of silence. For centuries it slumbered, a ghost story told to wide-eyed students until revived in Harry's time with safeguards too late for the fallen. Yet even in cancellation, its shadow-shaped wizarding lore, reminders that cooperation demanded structure, not just spectacle. That structure came next, through the body that governed before ministries rose, the Wizards' Council, where ancient decrees first tamed the chaos of champions and curses alike. What hidden trials did they face in those shadowy chambers? Stay with us for Chapter 12, the Wizards' Council, Law Before the Ministry. While the Triwizard Tournament forged fragile bonds between Hogwarts' Bossbatons and Durmstrang in 1294, back in the British Isles, wizarding society teetered on the edge of anarchy. Picture-weathered stone chambers deep beneath ancient hills, where robed figures gathered not in grand halls like those at Hogwarts, but in dimly lit caverns lit by flickering lumos spells, their voices echoing off damp walls as they debated the fate of their world. This was the Wizards' Council, the makeshift backbone of governance that held sway for centuries before any formal bureaucracy took root. No gleaming ministry buildings, no departments with neatly stacked parchments, just a rotating assembly of influential witches and wizards, summoned by owl or flew when crises demanded it. Disputes over land enchanted for privacy, vendettas between old families spilling into duels that scorched entire forests, and rogue spells gone awry, twisting Muggle livestock into grotesque hybrids. The chaotic governance of the British Isles before formal bureaucracy meant justice was often swift and personal. A warlock's wand deciding disputes in the heat of argument, leaving grudges to fester like untreated wounds. At the heart of it all stood the chief warlock, a title as ancient as the standing stones of Avebury, elected from the council's most respected members, to wield authority when consensus crumbled. This figure wasn't a king or minister, but a mediator forged in fire. Think of a stern elder with a beard streaked silver from years of unravelling curses, their voice cutting through the clamour like a severing charm. The chief warlock presided over trials in hidden groves under moonlit skies, parchments unfurling with accusations of illegal potion brewing or forbidden divinations. They issued edicts that rippled through wizarding hamlets, from York to the wild Cornish coasts, demanding order amid the growing perils of a magical world brushing too close to the non-magical one. One of their thorniest burdens was the early attempts to regulate magical beasts, creatures that roamed freer than any wizard dared. Dragons nested in highland caves, their roars mistaken for thunder by distant Muggle farmers. Hippogriffs swept low over misty moors, snatching sheep and sparking terrified tales of winged demons. The council, under successive chief warlocks, drafted the first beast codes around the 13th century. Decrees binding owners to containment charms, mandatory registration for basilisks in private menageries, and patrols to recapture Graphorns that lumbered into border villages. Imagine the tension in those council meetings. A grizzled breeder arguing for the rights of his thestral herd, while survivors of a Kelpie flood recounted drowned children pulled from swollen rivers. Fines were levied in galleons, exiles pronounced to remote isles. Yet enforcement relied on volunteer Auror-like enforcers, their brooms cutting through storm clouds to lasso escaped manticores. These efforts, noble as they were, exposed the council's deepening fractures. Beasts weren't the only wild force. Wizards themselves chafed under loose reins, flaunting spells in Muggle markets to settle scores, or impress villagers with levitating feasts. The chief warlock's gavel might fall on a werewold unregistered after a full moon rampage, but whispers of resentment spread like fiendfire. Goblin delegations stormed sessions, demanding reparations for stolen forge fires, their axes glinting as they recounted raids on their underground holds. And through it all, the Muggle world pressed closer, their pitchforks rising at sightings of glowing familiars or unexplained blights on crops from errant hexes. The Council's failure to prevent escalating conflicts with the Muggle world became its undoing, a slow bleed that stained the 14th and 15th centuries crimson. Witchfinders roamed the countryside, fueled by tales of cattle exploding into fireworks or skies, raining toads during council-sanctioned beast hunts gone wrong. In York, a public duel between rival warlocks lit the night like a second sun, drawing inquisitors who burned a dozen innocents at the stake before wizards apparated away in panic. Chief warlock after chief warlock, names like Eldritch Diggory or the fierce Priscilla Dupont, tried bolstering concealment charms on wizarding enclaves. But the patchwork laws couldn't stem the tide. Families fled to hidden vales. Hogwarts reinforced its wards until the castle seemed a mere ruin to outsiders, and the air grew thick with the smoke of pyres. Rebellion brewed, not just from Muggles, but within. Pure-blood factions echoing Slytherin's old prejudices clashed with those advocating Muggle-born integration, their arguments devolving into stunning spells mid-session. Goblin wars flared anew, sieges on Diagon Alley's precursors leaving streets slick with spell-scarred cobblestones. The council convened more often, in secret bolt holes warded against scrying, but each gathering revealed the rot. Too few to police a swelling population, too divided to enforce unity. By the 16th century, as Muggle persecutions peaked with trials in Salem's shadow, echoing across the Atlantic, the call grew for something ironclad, a bureaucracy to replace the creaking wheel of council rule. Ulrich Gamp would later step in as the first minister in 1707, but that's a tale for the ministry's dawn. For now, feel the weight of those failing edicts, the chief warlock's weary sigh as another beast report arrived, the distant clamour of Muggle mobs that pushed wizards deeper into shadow. As Britain's wizards huddled in secrecy, eyes turned outward to uncharted horizons where magic took root far from council squabbles. Up next in Chapter 13, Magic in the New World, we cross the ocean to discover how Native American witches and wizards, masters of wandless wonders, built societies untouched by European chaos, or so they thought. What ancient powers stirred there, predating even Hogwarts? And how did they clash with the Nomage tide? You won't want to miss the secrets waiting across the waves. As the Wizards' Council in Britain wrestled with unruly beasts like the Nundu, and the chaos of unregulated spellcraft, their gaze seldom strayed across the endless Atlantic. Yet magic had long since taken root in the vast, untamed lands of the New World, where Native American wizards cultivated traditions that made European wands seem like crude crutches. These shamans and seers, dwelling in harmony with the spirits of the wild, mastered wandless magic with a finesse born of the land itself, whispering to ancient oaks to bend their branches into living bridges, coaxing thunderbirds from storm clouds with a flick of the wrist, or brewing elixirs from river weeds that could mend wounds deeper than any European potion. Picture the dense forests of what we now call the American Northeast, where clans gathered under full moons, their hands glowing faintly. As they wove spells without a single stick of wood, they communed with animal spirits, transforming into wolves to track prey across snowy plains, or merging with eagles to scout horizons no broom could rival. Their potions, simmered in clay pots over sacred fires, drew power from the earth's own veins, roots that pulsed with life force, herbs that remembered the songs of rain. This was no primitive craft. It rivaled the alchemical heights of Uagadou in Africa, where finger gestures summoned stars to guide the lost. Native wizards shaped the very ecosystems around them, ensuring herds of magical deer migrated in perfect rhythm with the seasons, or vines that guarded hidden glades from intruders. Their magic flowed like breath, intuitive and boundless, tied to the rhythms of buffalo thunders and whale songs, echoing from distant shores. Long before any sail cut the horizon, these wizards knew of the old worlds. Whispers travelled on the wind from Europe and Africa, carried first by broomsticks that daring flyers piloted across the featureless sea, their bristles singed by tempests. But the true revelation came with the mastery of apparition. Not the short hops of British wizards dodging Muggle patrols, but vast leaps that spanned oceans. Imagine the shock of the first transcontinental apparition, a native seer materialising on a Scottish cliffside amid the Wizards' Council debates, material in a swirl of desert sand and pine scent. This discovery transformed isolation into alliance. Messages zipped invisibly from powwow fires to highland cairns, sharing lore on self-transfiguration or the taming of basilisks. Apparition became the invisible thread, stitching the global web of wizardry tighter, allowing a potion recipe from the Mississippi Basin to influence a healer's work in the Carpathians overnight. These exchanges painted a world of mutual wonder. African astronomers trading star charts for native beast lore, European wand makers baffled by spells that needed no conduit, native potions, thick with the essence of giant turtles or fire salamanders, healed plagues that stumped Ollivander's era healers. And their animal magic? They didn't subdue creatures, they danced with them. Packs of spectral wolves patrolled territories, summoned by a low chant, while schools of enchanted fish guarded coastal potions caches from sharks. This equilibrium sustained magical ecosystems for millennia. Forests, where trees whispered warnings of drought, rivers teeming with self-aware salmon that carried messages upstream. Wizards lived openly among nomas, their kin, blending spells into daily hunts and harvests, for persecution's shadow hadn't yet crossed the waters. Then came the Europeans, not the wizards on brooms, but hordes of nomage settlers, axes in hand, driven by famine and fervour. They crashed into these ancient balances like a landslide, their iron ploughs tearing roots that held spells in place, their settlements smothering glades where plant spirits slumbered. Magical herds scattered before gunfire, thunderbirds fled polluted skies, and the delicate web of animal alliances frayed as nomad expansion choked the life from sacred groves. Native wizards, once stewards of thriving wilds, watched potions fail as ingredients vanished. The glowing moss of riverbanks trampled, the bloodroot vines burned for firewood, ecosystems that had pulsed with magic for centuries withered. Self-regulating forests turned barren. Beasts grew feral without their guiding hands. Apparition scouts returned with grim reports of villages razed, forcing wizards deeper into reservations of enchantment, their wandless arts adapting in secrecy amid the rubble of old worlds. The disruption rippled outward, severing those transcontinental ties as native seers focused inward, rebuilding what they could. Yet echoes of their sophistication lingered, a reminder that magic's true power often lay beyond wood and core. As these New World traditions endured in the shadows, back in Europe, tensions brewed among those who toiled underground. Goblins, long simmering under wizard rule, ready to ignite a century of blood that would shake the foundations of secrecy itself. Tune in next for Chapter 14, The Goblin Rebellions, Century of Blood, where axes clash and fortunes turn to ash in ways that still haunt the Ministry's vaults. While Native American wizards mastered wandless magic and apparition to span continents, without a single carved stick in hand, European wizards grew ever more chained to their wands, those exquisite tools forged deep in goblin forges. This dependence ignited a fire that would scorch the wizarding world for over a century. A brutal stretch known as the Century of Blood. Goblins had long been the unrivaled artisans of the magical realm, their hands shaping not just wands from the hearts of ancient woods and dragon cores, but also gleaming swords that sang through the air and armor that turned aside curses like rain. They delved into mountains, unearthing treasures that wizards coveted, crafting heirlooms passed down through bloodlines. Yet for all their skill, goblins chafed under wizarding law, which treated their creations as mere commodities. A wand once sold became the wizard's eternal property, never to return to the goblin maker upon the owner's death. No compensation for the heirloom's enduring magic, no recognition of the goblin craft that powered every Lumos or Patronus. This was the deep-seated resentment over wand rights and magical ownership, a grudge festering like an open wound since the first Ollivander shop rose in 382 BC. Whispers of unrest turned to roars in the late 14th century, when goblin smiths in the Gringotts vaults, newly carved under the streets of London, began refusing service to wizards who demanded their finest work without fair trade. Clashes erupted in the shadowed alleys of Diagon Alley, where goblin blades met wizard spells in sudden bloody skirmishes. Wizards, backed by the Wizards' Council, enforced their claims with iron decrees, labeling goblins as second-class beings unfit to wield their own magic through wands. But goblins fought not with spells, for wands were denied them, but with cunning traps, poisoned blades, and hordes of trained acromantulas loosed from their caverns. By the early 15th century, the rebellions swelled into full war. Urg the Unclean emerged as the goblins' fiercest champion, a hulking figure with skin like weathered granite and eyes burning with centuries of bottled rage. Unclean not from filth, but from the wizard curses that scarred him in youth. Urg rallied clans from the Scottish Highlands to the Welsh mines. He led daring raids on wizard manors, his forces tunnelling under foundations to collapse them into sinkholes, swallowing families whole, amid screams echoing through the earth. Wizards retaliated with scorched earth brutality, deploying fiend fire that razed entire goblin warrens, leaving caverns choked with ash and the acrid stench of charred gold. Dark wizards among them unleashed early forms of the unforgivable curses, Cruciatus twisting goblin limbs into knots of agony, Imperious bending their strongest warriors against their kin. One infamous assault saw Urg's horde storm Hogsmeade under cover of night, their war cries grinding stone as they shattered shop windows and dragged vault keepers into the streets. Wizards from Hogwarts, professors and alumni alike, apparated in force, raining stunners and blasting curses that lit the village in green and orange flares. Bodies piled in the snow. Goblin and wizard mingled, while the air thickened with the coppery tang of blood and the ozone crackle of spent magic. Urg himself slew a dozen with a single enchanted axe before vanishing into the forbidden forest, his laughter a guttural rumble that haunted survivors' nightmares. These wars dragged on through the 16th century, pitting Forge against Wand in a cycle of ambushes and reprisals. Goblins sabotaged Wand cores, causing spells to backfire in spectacular failures, wands exploding in wizards' grips, showering them with splintered wood and felled foes. Wizards responded by poisoning goblin water sources with draughts that withered their forge-strong hands, or by breeding basilisks in secret lairs to unleash on rebel camps. Brutality scarred the land itself, from blasted moors in Yorkshire to flooded caverns in Cornwall, where drowned goblins clutched their final treasures. Amid this carnage, the wizarding economy teetered on ruin. Galleons hoarded in family vaults melted away, funding endless defences, hiring mercenaries and rebuilding razed estates. Wizards turned desperate, seeking secure vaults beyond goblin reach. But the goblins, ever the bankers, saw opportunity. In 1474, as truces flickered amid exhaustion, Gringotts Bank was formally founded by goblin elders in the heart of Diagon Alley. No longer just craftsmen, they became guardians of wizard wealth, their labyrinthine vaults warded by dragons and ancient spells, demanding fees that flowed back to goblin coffers. These wars shaped the wizarding economy profoundly, birthing a financial empire where goblins held the keys to every wizard's fortune, a wary alliance forged in blood that endures to this day. Urg the Unclean fell in the final throes of the Century of Blood, around 1610, betrayed by a turncoat wizard and struck down by a hail of Sectum Sempra-like slashes in a moonlit glen. His death quelled the open flames, but embers smouldered, sparking lesser revolts into the 17th century. The Wizards' Council, bloodied and bankrupt, paved the way for the Ministry's rise, with goblin rights grudgingly codified but never fully honoured. As the echoes of goblin axes faded from the highlands, a new terror stirred beyond the wizarding wards. Muggle torches kindled in village squares, heralding the burning times, where flames would claim witches and wizards in numbers that dwarfed even Urg's rebellions. What horrors awaited as secrecy became survival? As the echoes of Urg the Unclean's rebellions faded in the blood-soaked 17th century, wizards turned their eyes not to stone-walled fortresses or goblin strongholds, but to the flickering torches gathering outside their own hidden doorsteps. Muggle fear had simmered for generations, but now it boiled over into an inferno that no spell could fully quench. In Europe, the witch hunts reached their savage peak during those grim decades, with trials spreading like plague from the rolling hills of England to the shadowed forests of Germany and the stormy coasts of Scotland. Accusations flew thicker than curses. Women, men, even children branded as witches for a misplaced glance or a whispered word that bent the wind unnaturally. Inquisitors dragged suspects to ducking stools, their bodies plunged into icy rivers until they confessed or drowned, proving innocence or guilt in the same merciless breath. Flames roared in public squares, the air thick with the acrid stench of burning flesh and singed herbs, as crowds cheered the purge of what they saw as Satan's kin. Wizards, once blending seamlessly into these villages, now huddled in terror, their wands clutched beneath cloaks, every accidental spark risking exposure and agony. Across the Atlantic, in the wild frontiers of colonial America, the peril twisted into something even darker. There, rogue wizards known as the Scourers preyed on the chaos, masquerading as Muggle hunters while hunting their own kind for gold. These turncoats, bitter exiles from European wizarding lines, formed brutal posses that roamed the untamed woods of Massachusetts and Salem, sniffing out magic with crude detection charms stolen from darker tomes. They sold captured witches and wizards to Muggle courts for bounties, their own kin betrayed for a pouch of coins or a plot of land. Trials in places like Salem, became spectacles of fabricated horrors, spectral evidence conjured by scourer spells to convict the innocent, leading to gallows creaking under the weight of nooses and pyres devouring the night. You can almost hear the crackle of those fires. Smell the smoke curling through hidden wizarding hamlets. Feel the ground tremble as families fled under cover of night. Wizards who once bartered openly with Muggle farmers now vanished into the mist, their broomsticks humming low over treetops to evade pursuit. The Scourer's betrayals cut deepest, fracturing trust within the magical community itself. As whispers spread of informants lurking in every tavern and every wand-maker's stall, this relentless onslaught forced a shattering truth upon the wizarding world. Magic could no longer coexist with the non-magical world. Open displays, once a mark of pride, became a death sentence. Families who had intermingled for centuries now erected fiercer concealment charms around their homes, teaching children to bury their gifts deep within. In mixed villages like Godric's Hollow, doors bolted shut at dusk, and the laughter of shared festivals turned to silence, broken only by the distant howl of witchfinder hounds. Yet the deepest scars ran through the youngest hearts. In homes where parents, gripped by terror, forbade all magic to shield their children from prying eyes, tragedy unfolded in the shadows. Magical children, their innate powers suppressed and starved, twisted inward until something monstrous stirred. These became obscurials, rare, destructive forces born of shame and denial, where a child's pure magic curdled into a parasitic darkness. Imagine a boy in a Puritan cabin, his fingers twitching to summon light but beaten back by a father's rod, until one night the walls splinter like parchment and black winds howl from his skin, shattering the roof in a storm of unspoken rage. Girls in Scottish crofts, their accidental levitations punished with iron clamps on wrists, withered into wraiths that lashed out blindly, levelling barns and claiming lives before fleeing into the wilds. Reports trickled through wizarding councils of these lost souls, their forms dissolving into smoke after bursts of cataclysmic power, leaving villages in ruins and parents haunted by what they had wrought. Wizards watched their numbers dwindle, their ancient ways unravelling under the weight of this hysteria. The Wizards' Council, still clinging to power before the Ministry's rise, convened in secret vaults beneath London, parchments piling high with pleas for drastic measures. Envoys from Uagadou and the Native American tribes shared grim portents via apparition flashes, visions of a world where magic must vanish entirely to survive. And so, as the 17th century choked on its own ashes, the global wizarding community edged toward a fateful decree. Tune in next for Chapter 16. 1692, the International Statute of Secrecy, where one parchment changed everything forever, binding wizards to shadows in a pact that echoes through our world today. By the close of those burning times, as the pyres cooled across Europe and the Scourer's nooses heightened in the American colonies, a grim consensus settled over the wizarding world. No more half measures, no more uneasy truces in shared villages or fleeting glimpses of magic in Muggle markets. The non-magical world had declared war, and wizards everywhere understood they had to vanish entirely or perish. That desperate pivot came to a head, 1692, when representatives from wizarding councils across the globe gathered in secret locations from the misty highlands of Scotland to the shadowed alleys of Old Paris. For weeks they debated in warded chambers, their voices echoing with the weight of centuries. Muggle persecutions had spiraled into mass hysteria, burnings in Salem, trials in Würzburg, executions from the Pyrenees to the Urals. Wizards who once bartered spells for bread or healed villagers with potions now faced accusations of devilry. Families were torn apart, ancient grimoires consigned to flames. The old ways of coexistence, fragile as they were, lay in ashes. From this crucible emerged the International Statute of Wizarding Secrecy, a binding decree ratified by every major magical government. It forbade all contact with Muggles, no displays of magic in their presence, no revelations of wizardkind's existence, No interference in their wars or plagues. Violators faced oblivation at best, imprisonment at worst. But the statute wasn't just ink on parchment. It demanded immediate action. Wizards were ordered to retreat behind unbreakable charms, to weave illusions over their homes and halls, to sever ties that had endured since the days of Merlin. This was the most significant turning point in wizarding history, the Great Retreat. Overnight, an entire global civilization pulled back into the shadows, abandoning the open fields where Quidditch prototypes soared, and the bustling ports where African wandless mages traded with European wandmakers. Picture the frenzy in places like Godric's Hollow, that once mixed haven in the West Country. Wizards disillusioned their cottages one by one, charming them to resemble crumbling barns or thorny thickets. Families apparated en masse, brooms laden with heirlooms, as house elves dismantled enchanted greenhouses under cover of night. In Hogsmeade, the last all-wizard village near Hogwarts, residents reinforced Fidelius charms so potent that Muggles who wandered too close simply forgot the path existed. The logistical nightmare of hiding an entire global civilization overnight defies comprehension. In Europe alone, thousands of mixed communities dissolved in hours. Shopkeepers in Diagon Alley's precursors shuttered stalls mid-transaction, banishing potions and cauldrons into expanded trunks. Native American wizards, masters of wandless concealment, extended their rituals across the Atlantic via apparition networks, advising European kin on animating illusions with plant essences and animal spirits. African schools like Uagadou dispatched envoys who taught finger-pointing charms to cloak entire villages in mirage. Yet chaos reigned. Dragons smuggled from Romanian reserves broke free in the panic. House elves rebelled against sudden relocations, and centaurs in the Forbidden Forest stampeded through Muggle farmlands before hasty memory charms could be cast. Even the skies bore witness to the retreat. Broom traffic jammed ley lines from Bogsbaten's palaces to Durmstrang's icy towers, as students and professors ferried forbidden artifacts. In Asia, where wandlore blended with ancient jade rituals, entire mountain enclaves shimmered into invisibility, their waterfalls now veiling portals to hidden realms. The effort strained every resource. International port keys overloaded, flu networks flickered under the surge, and potion stocks of Polyjuice and Felix Felicis dwindled as wizards disguised themselves to evacuate stragglers. Complicating this exodus was the Clause 73 controversy, a bitter flashpoint that nearly derailed the statute itself. Tucked into the document's fine print, it mandated the strict policing of magical creatures, dragons, basilisks, mer-people, even the humble owls and kneazles that had long roamed freely. Creatures deemed dangerous had to be confined, registered, or banished to remote preserves, their movements policed by international Auror patrols. Creature rights advocates, from the centaur herds of the Alps to the merfolk assemblies in the Black Lake, erupted in protest. Why punish the beasts for Muggle fears? They argued in heated sessions. Goblin delegates, still smarting from their rebellions, sided with the creatures, seeing echoes of their own wand-denied plight. Debates raged over exemptions. Could the strolls graze unseen meadows, or must they be chained? Hippogriffs faced summary relocations, sparking skirmishes in the Scottish moors. Yet the clause held, enforced by roving squads who herded nifflers from Muggle vaults and disillusioned Grafforns in the Carpathians. Thestrals were the hardest hit, their skeletal forms, visible only to those who'd seen death, still drew unwanted eyes during the transition. One infamous instant saw a flock scatter over London, prompting a frantic aerial roundup that singed the tails of several broomsticks. Merpeople, territorial by nature, sank their villages deeper into locks, weaving siren songs into warning wards. This policing sowed seeds of resentment that would fester for generations, pitting wizard against beast in a fragile new order. Through it all, the Great Retreat reshaped the wizarding soul. No longer bold wanderers in Muggle courts, wizards became guardians of secrets, their lives a tapestry of concealment charms and whispered gatherings. Hogsmeade solidified as a sanctuary, its pub lanterns glowing only for those who knew the right knock. Diagon Alley burrowed deeper underground, its vaults echoing with the hammers of relocated Gringotts goblins. The world felt smaller, safer, but profoundly isolated. As the dust settled and the charms took hold, the wizarding councils grappled with a new reality. Enforcing this secrecy demanded structure beyond ad hoc gatherings. That pivotal shift, the formal birth of governance to police the hidden world, awaits us in the next chapter, the birth of the Ministry of Magic. What unlikely figure first took the helm, and how did they tame the chaos of a freshly veiled society? Stay with me to uncover it. 15 years after the International Statute of Secrecy cloaked the wizarding world in shadows, the Wizards' Council faced a storm it could no longer contain. Wizards across Britain grumbled in hidden taverns, their wands sparking with frustration, as they mourned the loss of open skies and Muggle markets where spells once danced freely. The Great Retreat had been a desperate pivot, but enforcing it meant wrestling with a public that viewed secrecy not as salvation, but as a chain around their ancient freedoms. Whispers of discontent swelled into roars by the early 18th century in villages like Tinworth and Hogsmeade. Families who had intermingled with Muggles for generations now packed up heirlooms under Fidelius charms, their faces etched with resentment. The council, that venerable body of elders and warlocks, creaked under the weight, its loose gatherings of chieftains and sages ill-suited to police a restless populace. Reports flooded in of rogue witches brewing potions in plain sight, wizards transfiguring livestock for Muggle fairs, even duels erupting in broad daylight to protest the new order. Something had to give, and it did, in a pivotal assembly hall warded against prying eyes. Ulrich Gamp's ascension as the first Minister for Magic in 1707 marked the dawn of structured power. A stern figure from an old wizarding line, Gamp had risen through the council's ranks during the Goblin Wars, his no-nonsense grip on unruly house elves earning him quiet respect. Picture him striding into that chamber, robes swirling like storm clouds, his voice cutting through the din. The time for councils had passed. They needed departments, hierarchies, a machine to grind secrecy into every wizard's bone. The assembly, weary from years of chaos, nodded in uneasy agreement, electing him on the spot. Gamp didn't waste breath on ceremony. He rolled up his sleeves and began the great overhaul. The restructuring of the Wizards' Council into the departmental system transformed governance from a patchwork of tribal elders into a bureaucratic fortress. What was once a round table of debate splintered into specialized arms. The Department of Magical Law Enforcement to hunt down secrecy breakers. The Office for the Detection and Confiscation of to-fit defensive spells and protective objects to root out illicit charms. Even early seeds of the Department of Magical Accidents and Catastrophes to mop up the messes. Floors of the Ministry's nascent headquarters, buried deep beneath London, hummed with quills scratching oaths of office, owls ferrying decrees, and probationary orals drilling in dimly lit corridors. Gamp envisioned it as a living entity, each department a limb enforcing the statute's iron will, from regulating broomstick flights over Muggle towns to silencing boggarts that might betray hidden homes. Yet the immediate challenge of enforcing the statute secrecy on a rebellious public tested this newborn ministry to its core. Wizards didn't vanish quietly. Pockets of defiance flared like cursed fire. In the misty hills of Wales, a band calling themselves the Open Sky League gathered under full moons, casting Patronuses high to signal their refusal to hide. Beams of light that Muggles mistook for auroras, but which drew the council's ire. Gamp dispatched his first Auror squads, their stunning spells echoing through fog-shrouded vales as they dragged protesters to holding cells. In Diagon Alley, shopkeepers hawked secrecy-resistant amulets that fizzled spectacularly, sparking riots where hexes flew and cauldrons overturned in showers of acrid smoke. One notorious incident saw a Cornish wizard, emboldened by mead, apparate into a Muggle pub mid-toast, turning tankards to toads before a swift Obliviate brigade arrived. Gamp's quill flew through the night, penning the first Wizengamot edicts. Fines for minor breaches, Azkaban for the worst. These early years were a forge of fire for the Ministry. Hammering out protocols amid the clamour, Gamp walked the shadowed halls himself, listening to the drip of enchanted fountains and the murmur of memory charms being bottled for distribution. He knew the rebellion stemmed from deeper wounds, the fresh scars of the burning times, the goblin uprising's grudges, the ache of lost Muggle kin. Slowly, through tireless memory modifications and heartfelt appeals in the Daily Prophet, compliance crept in. Wizards learned to whisper spells in alleyways, to charm their homes invisible, to live the lie that would define them for centuries. But for the most dangerous dissenters, those whose wands thirsted for open war against the Veil, Gamp needed more than spells or cells. He turned his gaze to a forsaken rock in the North Sea, a place that would become synonymous with despair. That's where we'll venture next in Chapter 18, Azkaban. The island of despair where the Ministry's iron fist found its coldest edge, as the Ministry of Magic took shape under Ulrich Gamp in 1707. With its fresh departmental divisions handling everything from secrecy enforcement to magical law, the Wizards' Council had long recognised a glaring void. A fortress strong enough to contain those who wielded magic for unspeakable evil. That void was filled by Azkaban, a jagged scar of an island fortress rising from the churning North Sea, its very name whispering dread through wizarding Britain for centuries. The fortress's dark origins trace back to the early 15th century, when a sorcerer named Echrizdis, one of the most twisted figures in pre-Hogwarts lore, sought an unbreachable sanctuary amid the wizarding world's brewing chaos. Echrizdis wasn't born to nobility or ancient bloodlines. He was a rogue experimenter, obsessed with the limits of dark magic, who vanished from mainland Europe around 1420, fleeing goblin uprisings and early pure blood feuds. He chose a remote outcrop battered by relentless gales, where jagged cliffs clawed at the sky and the sea roared like a living beast. There, using forbidden transfiguration and conjuration spells drawn from ancient grimoires, he raised walls of blackened stone infused with curses that twisted the mind. Walls that seemed to grow taller with every storm, as if the island itself hungered for isolation. Echrizdis ruled his domain for decades, luring followers with promises of immortality and power, but his true experiments unfolded in hidden vaults beneath the towers. Vivisections on captured Muggles to harvest raw fear, rituals blending necromancy with soul-binding hexes, and attempts to forge weapons from human despair. Whispers from escaped servants spoke of chambers where light itself withered, and the air thickened with an unnatural chill that seeped into the bones. It was during these unholy labours that Echrizdis first encountered the Dementors, or perhaps summoned them, though no records confirm the exact incantation. These hooded wraiths, born from humanity's collective anguish in some primordial cataclysm, had haunted forsaken places since time immemorial. Echrizdis's rituals, flooding the island with agony, drew them like moths to flame. They slithered from fog-shrouded crevices, gliding silently, their rattling breaths stripping joy from the living. His own acolytes turned on him in terror, but too late. By the time Echrizdis perished, ravaged, some say, by his own creations, the island pulsed with their presence, a natural prison woven from despair. For over 2 centuries, Azkaban lay abandoned, a cursed relic shunned by sailors and wizards alike. Ships that strayed too close reported crews gripped by sudden melancholy, visions of lost loved ones, and magic fizzling into sparks on the wind. The Wizards' Council, precursors to the Ministry, knew of it but deemed it too perilous, opting for scattered holding cells in hidden Ministry outposts. Yet as the 18th century dawned, with secrecy statutes demanding ironclad control over dark wizards who threatened exposure, think of those reckless anarchists bombing Muggle villages or brewing plagues in goblin-held territories. The new Ministry faced a crisis. Existing prisons overflowed, Escapes via apparition or broom were commonplace, even portkeys smuggled in bread loaves. They needed something inescapable, remote, and self-guarding. Why then did the Ministry choose this cursed site as their primary high-security prison? Pragmatism laced with desperation. Azkaban's isolation was unparalleled. Anti-apparition wards amplified by the island's latent magic made Porkix useless, while perpetual storms, fueled by Acrisdis's weather hexes, rendered broom flight suicidal. No flu network could pierce its veil, and the North Sea's whirlpools swallowed unauthorized ships whole. But the true genius lay in the Dementors themselves. Ulrich Gamp's Department of Magical Law Enforcement, scouring options, realized these entities required no wages, no loyalty oaths. They sustained on the happiness they devoured, growing stronger in confinement's gloom. Stationing wizard guards had proven costly and corruptible. Bribes, romances, outright defections. Dementors, however, were impartial devourers, their kiss of fate worse than death, ensuring no inmate dreamed of rebellion. In 1724, the first convicts, Goblin rebellion holdouts and witch hunt instigators, were shipped there under Gamp's decree, marking Azkaban's rebirth as the wizarding world's unyielding jail. This decision ignited fierce ethical debates within the early Ministry, debates that echoed through oak-panelled chambers in the fledgling Whitehall headquarters. Gamp himself championed the Dementors, arguing their use prevented worse atrocities. Souls sucked dry were a mercy compared to unleashed dark wizards ravaging Britain, but voices like that of Araminta Melliflua, a Hufflepuff-descended counsellor, decried them as soul-sucking abominations, unnatural enforcers that eroded the very humanity wizards sought to protect. Petitions circulated, signed by hundreds, warning that exposure to Dementors induced chronic hopelessness, Patronus failures and mutated spells. Prisoners emerging, if at all, as hollow shells unfit for society, healers from Sant. Mungos testified to the kiss's permanence, a void where the soul should be, likening it to voluntary Horcrux inversion. Pure-blood traditionalists balked too, fearing Dementors might one day turn on their summoners, while Muggle-born advocates drew parallels to the Scourer's tortures, branding Azkaban a stain on wizarding ethics. Yet necessity prevailed. Goblin wars still smouldered, secrecy breaches mounted, and trials revealed plots to overthrow the Statute itself. By 1750, Dementor contracts were formalised, ironic pacts binding the wraiths to ministry service, renewable every 7 years with offerings of despair. Azkaban expanded, cells carved deeper into the rock, towers fitted with scrying mirrors that pierced Dementor fog, and a central pit for the worst offenders where the chill never lifted. Tales from early wardens paint a hellscape, the ceaseless moan of wind mingling with inmate screams, fog coiling like serpents, meals arriving cold and tasteless as joy ebbed away. Escape attempts, legendary failures. One dark wizard, Grindelwald's precursor in ambition, apparated halfway across the sea only to splinch himself into oblivion, his screams luring Dementors for the feast. Over decades, Azkaban became synonymous with finality. Families received owls etched in black ink, detailing sentences measured in lifetimes. The Ministry's own Aurors trained there, steeling against the dread, learning to summon Patronuses amid mock kisses. Ethical qualms faded into procedure, though whispers persisted. Annual reviews where ministers like Basil Flack pondered alternatives, only to reaffirm the status quo. The island's curse, once a deterrent, now a bulwark. Its Dementors, grim sentinels ensuring the wizarding world's fragile peace. But even as Azkaban locked away the shadows, wizards craved havens free from Muggle eyes entirely, places to build lives unshadowed by fear. That story of sanctuary and separation unfolds in Chapter 19. The rise of all wizard settlements, with Azkaban now looming as the Ministry's grim enforcer. Wizards across Britain faced a far more pressing daily reality. Where could they lay their heads at night without risking exposure? The Statute of Secrecy had drawn a hard line, but it hadn't erased centuries of intertwined lives. Families who'd farmed alongside Muggle neighbours, for generations suddenly found themselves threading the needle of deception, their magic tucked away like a guilty secret. In places like Godric's Hollow, that delicate balance took root early, named for the brave founder himself. A village where witches and wizards lived shoulder to shoulder with non-magical folk, yet kept their world veiled through sheer ingenuity and quiet resolve. Picture the winding lanes there, cottages with thatched roofs that to a Muggle eye looked ordinary, but shimmered under subtle charms, words that dulled the glow of potion brews simmering in hearths, or muffled the hoot of owls delivering post at midnight. Fidelius charms weren't widespread yet, not until later dark times demanded them, so families relied on everyday enchantments, self-stirring cauldrons silenced to a whisper, broomsticks disguised as rakes leaning against garden sheds. The veil held because everyone played their part. No flashy spells in the street. No accidental magic from young ones left unchecked. A wizard might nod to his Muggle postman over the fence, all while his wife disillusioned the family gnomes before they could scamper into view. Those social dynamics shaped everything, a tense dance of proximity and pretense that wore on the soul. Wizards whispered, spells behind closed doors, their children schooled from toddlerhood to feign ignorance of floating candles or levitating toys. Friendships with Muggles formed cautious bonds, shared pints at the local inn, where a wizard might accidentally fix a leaky roof with a murmured reparo, passing it off as good fortune. Marriages stayed within magical lines, of course, arranged quietly to preserve bloodlines, but the strain showed in hushed arguments over whether to apparate home or risk the walk past prying eyes. Paranoia simmered. One slip, like a rogue firework from a child's wand, could spark rumours of witchcraft that rippled through the valley. Yet there was warmth too, in the solidarity of knowing your neighbour across the green, shared your hidden truth, trading flue powder under cover of night markets disguised as harvest fairs. Life hummed with that electric undercurrent. Freedom's illusion amid constant vigilance, where a Muggle's casual question about that odd light last night could freeze a dinner table silent. Not every wizard could stomach the charade forever. As persecution echoes from the burning times lingered, a bolder vision emerged. Communities free from the Muggle gaze entirely. Hogsmeade took shape in the late 17th century, founded as the only purely magical village in Britain. Nestled in the shadow of Hogwarts itself, its streets alive with unbridled wonder. No veils needed here. The founding families, weary of mixed life pretenses, pooled their resources post-Statute, enchanting the glen with boundary spells that repelled any non-magical wanderer, turning them back with a fog of confusion. Stone cottages sprang up first, their chimneys puffing smoke laced with everlasting fire, shops following suit. Zonko's joke shop, peddling pranks without fear of scandal, the three broomsticks pouring butterbeer that foamed eternally under warming charms. Hogsmeade's birth marked a turning point, a sanctuary where wizards exhaled. Families relocated from strained villages like Tinworth or Ottery St Catchpole, bringing their trades. Wandmakers setting up workshops where cores hummed openly healers, brewing wolfsbane without secrecy oaths. The air carried the scent of honeydukes, fizzing whizbees and pumpkin pasties. Laughter echoing from Hogshead without a single Muggle ear to overhear. Socially, it pulsed with pure-blood camaraderie. Feasts where Quidditch matches unfolded on village pitches, children racing brooms low over the hills. Their accidental magic met with cheers, not chastisement. Yet isolation bred its own tensions, whispers of superiority over Muggle-tainted kin from Godric's Hollow. Old feuds flaring in the pub over who truly deserved this haven. Goblin merchants hawked wares at the edges, a reminder of broader wizarding fractures. But Hogsmeade stood firm, its population swelling as the ministry endorsed it tacitly, a model for contained magic. Other attempts at all. Wizard enclaves flickered and faded. Hidden hamlets in the Welsh valleys warded too hastily, dissolving under ministry scrutiny for drawing attention. But Hogsmeade endured, its high street a lifeline for Hogwarts students sneaking down on weekends, stocking up on sweets and secrets. The veil elsewhere grew thicker. In Godric's Hollow, James and Lily Potter would later perfect those concealment arts. But even then, the foundations were laid in everyday endurance. Wizards adapted, their lives a mosaic of hidden hearths and open glens, the push-pull of secrecy forging resilience. This fragile patchwork of settlements set the stage for something far more vibrant, where wizarding commerce exploded into a hidden empire of its own. Up next in Chapter 20, Diagon Alley and the economic boom. What happened when those isolated pockets linked up through a single bustling artery of shops and gold, turning secrecy into staggering wealth? You won't want to miss how it all ignited. I hope you're as amazed by this as I am. If you want to stay updated on more content like this, make sure to subscribe and join our community of curious minds. Trust me, what's coming next will challenge everything you thought you knew. While villages like Hogsmeade offered wizards a secluded escape in the rolling hills of Scotland, and places such as Godric's Hollow carefully balanced the magical and mundane under a fragile veil of secrecy. The true pulse of the hidden society quickened in the shadowed heart of London. Diagon Alley wasn't just a street. It became the throbbing economic artery that kept the wizarding world alive and thriving. After the international Statute of Secrecy slammed the door on open coexistence, picture the late 17th and early 18th centuries, when wizards everywhere were scrambling to vanish their lives from Muggle eyes. Homes were charmed into invisibility, broomsticks tucked away in attics, and everyday magic reduced to furtive whispers. But commerce, that couldn't be hidden so easily. Potions needed brewing, wands required repair, cauldrons demanded replacement. The demand exploded overnight, fueling what historians now call the Great Economic Boom of the Concealed Era. Shops that had once dotted rural crossroads or huddled in mixed villages sprouted anew, converging on a single enchanted cobblestone lane hidden behind a nondescript brick wall in Charing Cross Road. This wasn't mere survival trading. It was a full-blown expansion of the magical marketplace to support a hidden society now numbering in the tens of thousands across Britain alone. Flourish and blots piled high with spellbooks imported from as far as Peru there, pages whispering incantations that could bend reality. Elop's Owl Emporium echoed with the soft hoots of 100 breeds, each bird a lifeline for letters that crossed invisible borders. Gringotts Bank, carved deep into ancient vaults by goblin hands, guarded fortunes amassed from alchemical gold and enchanted heirlooms, its marble halls gleaming under torchlight that never flickered out. Madame Malkin's robes were all occasion stitched garments that repelled stains and mended tears with a flick of the wrist, while quality Quidditch supplies buzzed with prototypes of brooms that skimmed the sound barrier long before the firebolt. The air in Diagon Alley hung thick with the sense of bubbling elixirs from Slug and Jigger's apothecary, mandrake root simmering alongside powdered unicorn horn, and the sharp tang of new parchment. Witches haggled over flue powder rates, wizards bartered for self-stirring cauldrons, and children pressed noses to windows displaying chocolate frogs that leaped from their boxes. This wasn't a quaint market, it was a self-sustaining empire, where goblin-forged galleons clinked in purses, fueling innovations that kept the wizarding world not just hidden, but prosperous. By the time the Ministry of Magic solidified in 1707, Diagon Alley's annual trade rivaled that of Muggle London's busiest ports, all without a single galleon crossing into the non-magical world. At the threshold of this hidden realm stood the Leaky Cauldron, the unassuming pub that served as the gateway between two worlds. Tucked away on Charing Cross Road, amid Muggle taverns and soot-stained facades, its weathered sign creaked in the London fog, depicting a cauldron leaking golden liquid that seemed to steam even on the driest days. To the untrained eye, it was just another dingy alehouse, frequented by weary travellers nursing tankards of butterbeer or fire whiskey. But step inside, past the scarred wooden bar, where Tom the innkeeper polished glasses with a rag that never quite cleaned them, and the air shifted. The back wall bricked over to Muggle sight, parted at a series of magical taps. 1, 2, 3, up, down, like a secret knock that unlocked paradise. Wizards emerged from the Floo network in a swirl of ash, shaking soot from cloaks, before plunging into the alley's chaos. Muggle-borns, fresh from their letters, stumbled through wide-eyed, guided by sympathetic strangers. The leaky cauldron wasn't merely a portal. It was the weary sentinel, the first taste of belonging after years of isolation. Its hearths roared with international flames, connecting Diagon Alley to Paris, New York, even remote outposts in the Himalayas. Here, secrets were traded over pints as freely as sickles for sausages, and the boundary between worlds blurred just enough to remind everyone what they were hiding from. Of course, such prosperity came with perils. The Ministry, still finding its footing under Ulrich Gamp, couldn't ignore the risks of this booming trade. Magical artifacts, self-writing quills that scribbled prophecies, vanishing cabinets that swallowed furniture whole, were slipping too close to Muggle hands. A careless shopper might leave a remembrall on a park bench, or a goblin negotiator could flash a cursed coin in the wrong pub, so they stepped in with ironclad regulations. How the Ministry regulated trade to prevent magical artifacts from reaching Muggles. The Department of Magical Law Enforcement dispatched undercover auras to patrol the alley's stalls, their eyes sharp for black market dealings in illegal love potions or dodgy invisibility cloaks. Licenses became mandatory for every shopkeeper. Flow Network Authority for powder sellers. Wand permissions from Ollivanders himself. Gringotts submitted ledgers to the Goblin Liaison Office. Every vault transaction scrutinized for leaks. Border charms sealed the alley's exits, triggering obliviate spells on any non-magical intruder who wandered too close. Fines crippled rogue traders, and Azkaban loomed for the worst offenders. Those peddling Horcrux rumours or dark marks etched into jewellery. Yet these rules didn't stifle the boom. They channeled it, turning Diagon Alley into a fortress of commerce, secure and surging. Goblins, ever shrewd, adapted quickest. Their rebellions had taught them leverage, and now they brokered deals that flooded the alley with exotic imports. African dreamleaf for divination teas, Native American wandless potion bases that outshone European brews. Wizards from Hogsmeade trekked down monthly, stocking up on supplies that sustained their all-magical haven. Even mixed communities like Tinworth sent envoys, blending alley goods with local Muggle wares under strict secrecy pacts. This economic web wove tighter with each passing year, binding the wizarding world in threads of gold and enchantment. As the 18th century dawned, Diagon Alley's lights burned brighter, a beacon for the displaced and the ambitious alike. Fortunes rose and fell on the flip of a chocolate frog card. Alliances formed over shared cauldrons, and the hidden society pulsed with a vitality that secrecy alone could never have forged. But amid this glittering commerce, shadows stirred in the underbelly of trade. Curses whispered in back alleys, artifacts pulsing with forbidden power. The lines between light and dark magic blurred as never before, leading straight into Chapter 21, the unforgivable curses, defining dark magic. What unspeakable spells emerged from these very markets, and how did they scar wizarding history forever? Stay with us to uncover the terror, as the magical marketplace of Diagon Alley flourished in those early days of secrecy, serving as a lifeline for a hidden society. Darker dealings simmered just beyond the lantern light of the leaky cauldron. Whispers of forbidden incantations passed from shadowed stall to cloaked buyer, spells so vile they threatened to unravel the fragile peace the Ministry was desperately trying to forge. These were no mere hexes or jinxes. They were the unforgivable curses, the trio of dark arts that would come to define the very edge of wizarding morality. Their historical classification began in the turbulent years following the International Statute of Secrecy, when the Wizards' Council, freshly restructured under the new Ministry, sifted through centuries of grimoires and trial records. to codify what no civilized witch or wizard could abide. First among them stood Avada Kedavra, the killing curse, a jet of green light that struck without wound or scream, snuffing out life in an instant, as if the soul had simply vanished. Traced back to ancient rituals in the shadowed valleys of medieval Europe, where dark covens invoked it during blood feuds with Muggle hunters. Its power lay in its merciless finality. No counter-curse, no mercy, just the cold finality of death. Wizards who survived close encounters described the air growing thick, an unnatural chill, the victim's eyes glazing over in eternal surprise, their bodies crumpling like discarded robes. Then came Imperius, the Imperio Curse, a silken thread of domination that seized the mind and bent the will utterly. Picture a victim, eyes glazing with false serenity, compelled to dance at their master's whim, betray their kin, or even raise a wand against their own heart, all while believing it their deepest desire. Its origins wove through the courts of Renaissance pure-blood families, where ambitious lords enslaved rivals and servants alike, forging puppet armies in hidden manners. The curse's subtlety made it insidious. Victims awoke with fractured memories, haunted by echoes of actions they couldn't explain, their autonomy stolen without a trace of force. And Crucio, the Cruciatus curse, unleashed agony beyond mortal endurance, twisting nerves into flames that scorched from within. A flick of the wand, and the target convulsed in silent screams, every muscle seizing, every breath a razor through the lungs, lasting as long as the caster's hatred fueled it. Born from the torture chambers of early inquisitions, both Muggle and magical, it was the tool of interrogators and tyrants, breaking bodies and spirits until truth spilled amid the bleeding. Survivors, if they lived, bore invisible scars, flinching at shadows, their laughter forever tainted by phantom pains. By 1717, just a decade after the Ministry's birth, these curses demanded a reckoning. The Wizengamot convened in a chamber, heavy with the scent of aged oak and flickering torchlight, debated fiercely under Minister Hector Aurelius. Reports flooded in from Auror patrols, duels in back alleys ending in green flashes, Muggle-borns found puppeted into self-destruction, innocents writhing in Hogsmeade lanes. The horror peaked with the trial of Elias Blackthorn, a rogue enchanter caught red-handed amid a circle of Imperiust Gringotts guards. That 1717 law officially banned their use under penalty of life in Azkaban. No exceptions, no appeals. Casting even one meant the Dementor's eternal kiss. The Ministry branded them unforgivable, their very utterance a mark of the irredeemable. Azkaban cells, still echoing with the fortress's cursed winds, filled swiftly, first with petty sadists, then with those who saw the ban as mere ink on parchment, yet defiance brewed in the underbelly. Dark wizards, scorning the Ministry's chains, defied the ban to establish underground empires that sprawled like roots beneath the wizarding world, lurking in forgotten crypts and warded caverns from the Scottish moors to the Welsh mountains. They formed cabals bound by blood oaths and shared malice. Barnabas the Brutal, a hulking figure with eyes like smouldering coals, ruled from a labyrinth under the Peak District, his followers branded with Cruciatus scars as loyalty tests. He peddled imperious amulets in Diagon's deepest shadows, amassing a network of enthralled informants that spied on Ministry officials. Farther south, Lavinia the Lifeless commanded a watery domain off Cornwall's coast. Her Avada Kedavra whispered over tidal pools to drown rivals, her empire trading in Horcrux lore smuggled from ancient Egyptian tombs. These shadow lords didn't merely survive, they thrived, recruiting from disillusioned purebloods and desperation, fueled half-bloods, their strongholds pulsing with dark energy that warped the air into a perpetual twilight. Aurors raided one such lair in 1723, stumbling into halls where victims hung suspended in eternal crucio, their screams fueling protective wards. Barnabas escaped, only to resurface years later, Imperial using a Wizengamot judge to sabotage convictions. Lavinia's downfall came harder. A Ministry task force, bolstered by unspeakables, breached her submerged citadel, but not before she unleashed a wave of green light that claimed a dozen lives. Their legacies lingered, inspiring copycats who etched runes of the curses into black market wands, ensuring the ban's enforcement became the Auror Office's endless crusade. Even as these empires crumbled under relentless pursuit, the curse's shadow stretched long, infiltrating the veins of wizarding society. Families whispered of ancestors who dabbled, vaults in Gringotts hiding confiscated grimoires. The Ministry doubled Azkaban's guards, erected detection charms around Hogsmeade, yet the allure persisted. A siren's call to power in a world of enforced restraint. You can almost feel the chill of that green flash. In the quiet nights, the weight of a mind no longer your own, and as the echoes of those underground tyrants faded, a new undercurrent of influence rose among the elite pure-blood lines, maneuvering through politics and prejudice in ways that would reshape the Ministry from within. That's where we'll pick up in Chapter 22. The Malfoy influence and pure-blood politics, where old grudges and silver tongues begin to pull the strings of power, while the Ministry etched the unforgivable curses into law in 1717. Sentencing their wielders to Azkaban's endless chill, a quieter storm brewed in the marbled halls of power. Families like the Malfoys, with vaults brimming from centuries of enchanted gold and Muggle-tainted estates, saw the new order not as a cage, but as a throne to claim. These ancient lineages had long danced on the edge of both worlds. Picture the sprawling manors of Wiltshire, where Malfoy ancestors hosted lavish balls for bewigged Muggle lords, their house elves gliding unseen through candlelit salons, pouring elf-made wine that tasted of forgotten spells. But as the international Statute of Secrecy sealed the wizarding realm in 1792, those same families turned inward with ruthless grace. They shed their visible ties to Muggle high society, donating lands under charm-veiled deeds, marrying only within bloodlines that hummed with old magic, and funneled their influence straight into the Ministry's newborn departments. The Malfoys led this pivot masterfully. Lucius Malfoy's forebears, already whispered as patrons of the Wizengamot even before the Ministry's birth, secured seats on early regulatory boards. They lobbied through backroom feasts in Diagon Alley's private clubs, where crystal goblets clinked amid talk of preserving heritage. Their gold bought silence from goblin bankers still smarting from rebellions, ensuring loans flowed to pure-blood estates, while Muggle-born entrepreneurs scraped by on Gringotts' fringes. You can almost hear the rustle of velvet robes in those smoke-filled chambers, the subtle flick of a wand, altering a deed here, a memory there, as these families navigated the transition from Muggle high society to the Ministry's iron grip. By the 18th century's end, their web tightened. The Department of Magical Law Enforcement, meant to uphold the statute, bent under pressures no parchment recorded. Early ministers, indebted to Malfoy vaults or black family artifacts, quietly favoured ancient lineages in appointments. A pure-blood heir might glide into the Auror Office on a nod from a Malfoy cousin, while half-blood talents languished in clerical shadows. It was never overt, no fiery speeches like Slytherin's schism, just the slow drip of policy that rewarded wands passed down through unblemished veins. This crescendo peaked in the 19th century, as industrial smoke choked Muggle cities and wizarding bloodlines fretted over dilution. Enter the Pure Blood Directory, a leather-bound tome commissioned amid whispers of lineage verification. Published in the early 20th century by Ministry scribes under Malfoy patronage, it catalogued families deemed truly pure, free of any Muggle stain for generations. At its heart lay the sacred 28, a hallowed list etched in silver ink. Black Malfoy, Lestrange, Rosier and their kin, 28 names that became gospel for betrothals and alliances. The directory wasn't mere genealogy, it was a weapon wrapped in vellum, circulated through elite circles. From the tier rooms of Hogsmeade to the Ministry's atrium fountains, it shamed those with questionable ancestry, fueling arranged marriages that locked power tighter. Malfoys, ever at the fore, hosted unveilings in their serpentine drawing rooms, where champagne fizzed with Veritaserum traces, ensuring oaths of loyalty. Muggle-borns, already eyed warily post-Hogwarts sorting, found doors slamming as directory adherents whispered of integrity tests in job interviews. Yet this subtle manipulation of ministry policy to favour ancient lineages ran deeper than lists. The Educational Office, overseeing Hogwarts, saw funding skew to Slytherin scholarships for sacred heirs, while Hufflepuff's loyal sons funded their own brooms. Wizengamot votes on creature rights, goblins, house elves, tilted against the oppressed, preserving house elf servitude that kept Malfoy manors gleaming. Even Quidditch leagues, that great equaliser, bore marks. Pure-blood teams dominated through traditional broomsticks from family vaults, their captains rising to ministry sports posts. You sense the chill in those corridors, don't you? The way a Malfoy's peacock quill might scratch a favourable ruling at midnight, or how pure-blood directory pages yellowed in family libraries, consulted like sacred relics. These families didn't seize power with curses. They wove it into the bureaucracy's very warp, ensuring their blood supremacy endured the secrecy's long night. But as these politics calcified the ministry's core, giants stirred in the highlands, their roars echoing forgotten pacts. Up next, Chapter 23. The Giant Wars and the Erasure of History. What brutal campaigns were scrubbed from the annals? And why does their shadow still haunt the pure-blood elite, while pure-blood families like the Malfoys were compiling their directories and carving out influence within the fledgling ministry? That same government was forging its authority through bloodier means, targeting not rivals in parlours, but colossal beings who roamed the wild fringes of Britain. Giants, towering remnants of an ancient world, had long clashed with wizardkind, their wars etching deep scars into the land. Long before the Statute of Secrecy cloaked everything in shadow, these conflicts stretched back centuries into the misty eras when wizards still mingled uneasily with Muggle tribes and non-human kin. Giants weren't mere brutes of legend. They commanded a rich, primal culture, their clans gathering around massive stone circles, carved with runes that hummed with earth magic. Picture vast feasts under storm-lashed skies, where leaders like the legendary Bran the Blessed, whose name echoes in forgotten Welsh tales, recited sagas of migration from distant northern wilds, their voices booming like thunder. They forged weapons from enchanted boulders, brewed potions in cauldrons the size of houses, and revered the mountains as sacred veins of the earth itself. Wizards, in their early hubris, traded with them at first, rare herbs for giant strength brews, but envy and fear soured those bonds. Tensions ignited in the late 14th century, when giant raids on remote villages escalated, fueled by famine in their overpopulated clans. Wizards responded with organised fury, the Wizards' Council deploying battalions, armed with firestorms and binding curses. Battles raged across the Scottish Highlands and Welsh peaks, where the ground shook from 20-foot stomps and spells lit the night like false dawns. One infamous clash at the Battle of Tinworth saw hundreds of giants descend, their clubs splintering ancient oaks, only to be repelled by a veil of illusion charms that turned the tide. Casualties mounted on both sides, with wizards losing scores to crushing blows, while giants fell to coordinated hexes that withered flesh and bone. By the 17th century, as the Ministry of Magic solidified after the International Statute of Secrecy in 1692, these skirmishes evolved into systematic campaigns. The Ministry, eager to project order amid the chaos of secrecy, launched full-scale offensives to drive giants into the remote mountains. Elite Auror squads, backed by House Elf auxiliaries and dragon reserves, scorched clan settlements and poisoned water sources, herding survivors toward impassable peaks like those in the Grampians. Ministers like Faris Spavin justified it as civilizing the wilderness, but reports from the time, buried in ministry vaults, paint a grimmer picture. Villages razed, elders chained and interrogated for rebel strongholds, young giants scattered like chaff in the wind. The final push in the early 18th century reduced giant numbers from thousands to mere hundreds. Their heartlands claimed for wizarding expansion. In the wake of these wars came a profound loss. Ancient giant culture, those runestones, oral epics spanning millennia, rituals binding them to ley lines, vanished under deliberate erasure. Surviving giants, isolated in jagged fastnesses where no broom could easily venture, clung to fragments, half-remembered chants, totems hidden in caves. But without their communal fires, knowledge frayed, languages muddled into guttural dialects, shamans died without apprentices. This void bred a seething bitterness toward wizardkind, passed down like a curse through generations. Clans whispered of betrayal by the small folk, vowing vengeance that simmered into the 20th century, manifesting in alliances with dark wizards who promised retribution. Hagrid's own half-giant heritage carried that grudge, a living echo of treaties broken and homelands stolen. Yet the wizarding world didn't stop at conquest. It rewrote the narrative to suit its self-image. Ministry scribes sanitized history, recasting giants as savage aggressors in official tomes like tales of their sophisticated earth lore were dismissed as myth, their rune circles labelled primitive scribbles. Schoolbooks at Hogwarts glossed over the campaigns as relocations for mutual safety, omitting the scorched earth and broken oaths. Pure-blood chroniclers, echoing Malfoy-like disdain, portrayed wizards as enlightened saviors taming chaos, burying accounts of giant diplomats once welcomed at Wizengamot sessions. This erasure served a purpose: to appear more civilized, distancing the hidden society from its brutal past, lest Muggles, or worse, their own youth, question the Ministry's moral high ground. Archaeological traces linger, if you know where to look, crumbled monoliths in the Hebrides, etched with warnings against wand wielders, or faded Ministry memos debating whether to obliviate giant eyewitnesses. That bitterness endures, a fault line in wizard non-human relations, fueling unrest from goblin rebellions to troll incursions. Giants became cautionary shadows, their erased legacy a reminder of how power reshapes truth. As we leave the echoes of those mountain campaigns behind, prepare yourself for Chapter 24. Alchemy, Nicholas Flamel and the Quest for Immortality. What secrets did this enigmatic figure unlock that even giants might have envied? And how close did wizards come to cheating death itself? As the giants retreated into their misty mountain strongholds, nursing grudges that would echo through centuries, wizards turned their gaze inward, not to war, but to the ultimate conquest, cheating death itself. In the shadowed workshops of medieval Europe, alchemy wasn't just a pursuit of gold. It was a desperate hunger for eternity, a craft where potion makers and rune scribes blended science and sorcery to unravel the threads of mortality. Alchemy had roots far older than the 14th century, whispering through the ancient texts of Uagadou in Africa, where masters transmuted elements with bare hands and starlit gestures. But it was in Europe, amid the stone-walled apothecaries of Paris and Prague, that the wizarding world elevated it to obsession. Imagine the flicker of foxfire lamps over bubbling crucibles, the acrid tang of mercury vapours mingling with the sweet rot of mandrake root. Alchemists sought the three primes: body, soul and spirit, believing that mastery over them could yield elixirs to heal any wound, metals to forge unbreakable wands, and above all, the Philosopher's Stone, a crimson gem said to produce the elixir of life, granting immortality to any who drank from it. Enter Nicholas Flamel, a name that drifts like smoke through the annals of wizarding lore. Born in the bustling streets of 14th century France, Flamel started as a humble scrivener, copying manuscripts by quill light in the shadow of Notre Dame. But beneath that unassuming facade burned a relentless fire. Legends paint him as a muggle at first, marrying the wise Peverell, yet whispers in Bogsbatten's libraries insist he was born to wizard blood, hiding his powers to evade the witch hunts scorching Europe. His days blurred into nights, poring over ancient grimoires smuggled from Alexandria, decoding symbols etched by long-dead Mesopotamian mages. Flamel's breakthrough came not in a thunderclap of glory, but in quiet persistence. The 14th century creation of the Philosopher's Stone, a feat that reshaped the boundaries of magic forever. Picture his hidden laboratory beneath a nondescript Parisian hovel, shelves groaning under jars of phoenix tears and dragon blood, a massive Athanor furnace humming with contained infernos. For over 200 years, Flamel and Perenelle experimented, distilling base lead into gold, but their true prize was the stone itself, forged from a precise fusion of the 4 elements: Earth's adamant, water's flux, air's volatility, and fire's purification. Infused with spells drawn from Merlin's own lineage, it glowed with an inner light that promised endless vitality. One sip of its elixir, brewed fresh each day, mended flesh grown frail, sharpened minds dulled by time, and warded off the Reaper's scythe. Flamel's success rippled outward, infiltrating the nascent magical academies. He corresponded secretly with Hogwarts' early potions mart, smuggling formulas that elevated transfiguration classes and birthed new disciplines in alchemical theory. Ravenclaw scholars pored over his encrypted letters, while Slytherin heirs chased echoes of his gold-making rites, funding their ambitions. Flamel's influence wove into the fabric of wizarding education, inspiring curricula at Durmstrang on volatile elixirs and Bose-Baton's elegant crystal distillations, turning alchemy from fringe hermeticism into a cornerstone of magical scholarship. Yet Flamel's life remained a veil of secrecy, a masterclass in evasion. He and Perenelle faked their deaths multiple times, once in a grand funeral pyre staged with illusory flames, to dodge envious rivals and Muggle inquisitors. They wandered Europe as vagabonds, Perenelle brewing under the alias of a herbalist, Flamel posing as a wandering philosopher. Their home, a fortified chateau disguised as ruins, brimmed with artifacts, a cloak woven from acromantula silk for invisibility during escapes, grimoires bound in basilisk hide. This clandestine existence shielded their stone from the world's grasp, but it also sowed the seeds of mystery. Why then, amid a century of brilliant minds, from the goblin metallurgists of Gringotts to the wandless alchemists of the American prairies, could no one replicate Flamel's miracle? The answer lies in layers of enigma and impossibility. First, the stone demanded not just ingredients, but an irreplaceable catalyst. Flamel's own bloodline, attuned to a rare celestial alignment in 1492, when comets scarred the skies and ley lines pulsed with unprecedented vigor. Others tried. Desperate envoys from the Wizards' Council offered fortunes, but their stones crumbled to dust, unstable without that cosmic synchronicity. Second, Flamel embedded the creation rite with a self-destructing enchantment, a fail-safe curse that unraveled any imitation, turning rival crucibles to molten slag and scarring experimenters with alchemical burns that no potion could heal. Whispers persist of dark wizards, like the early progenitors of the Malfoy vaults, who unearthed fragments of his notes, only to unleash lab explosions that scarred the Wiltshire countryside. Even Uagadou's gestural masters, unmatched in self-transfiguration, confessed in private exchanges that European alchemy hinged on wands and runes foreign to their traditions, dooming cross-cultural attempts. Generations hunted Flamel's trail, from ministry archivists rifling through charred 14th century ledgers to pure-blood dilettantes funding expeditions into Albanian caves, where Helena Ravenclaw's diadem had once hidden alchemical secrets. But Flamel endured, outliving kings and councils, his stone safe until the 20th century's shadows. He watched Hogwarts evolve, advised on the Triwizard tournament's potion tasks, and even crossed paths with the Peverell descendants, pondering if the Resurrection Stone could amplify his elixir. His legacy endures not in replicated stones, but in the quest itself, the spark that drove wizardkind to probe deeper into life's mysteries, even as giants plotted in their peaks and new threats stirred, and as alchemy's golden dreams faded into guarded vaults, another shadowed struggle emerged in the wizarding underbelly, one that demanded codes and curses to contain a curse older than Flamel's stone. Coming up in Chapter 25, the Werewolf Code of Conduct. What desperate pacts were forged to leash the moon's fury, and why they so often failed, while alchemists like Nicholas Flamel unlocked the secrets of the Philosopher's Stone in the 14th century, promising endless life through golden elixirs. The wizarding world faced a far grimmer affliction that no potion could fully banish. The curse of lycanthropy. Werewolves, those tragic figures torn between human reason and feral hunger, had prowled the edges of magical society for centuries, their transformations a monthly torment under the full moon's glow. By the 17th century, as the Ministry of Magic solidified its grip after the International Statute of Secrecy, officials turned their gaze to these afflicted souls, hoping to bring order to what they saw as a growing threat. The Werewolf Code of Conduct emerged not from compassion, but from cold pragmatism. Drafted in the early 1600s, it laid out rules for lycanthropes to follow: mandatory reporting of transformations, restrictions on proximity to human settlements, and strict quarantine during full moons. You can almost hear the scratch of quills in dimly lit ministry chambers, wizards debating how to leash a beast that raged within their own kind. Wolfsbane potion wouldn't exist for another 2 centuries, so these codes relied on chains, isolation spells, and sheer willpower, measures as unreliable as they were inhumane. Then came 1637, the year the ministry attempted to register every known lycanthrope in Britain. Picture the scene. Aurors knocking on cottage doors at dusk, clipboards in hand, demanding names, blood samples, and moon charts from families who'd hidden their shame for generations. The intent was straightforward: track the cursed, contain the outbreaks, prevent Muggle discoveries that could shatter the statute. But resistance brewed like storm clouds over the forbidden forest. Werewolves, already whispered about in taverns as half-breeds unworthy of wands, saw this as the final shackle. Clandestine meetings in shadowed glens turned to sabotage. Forged registries, vanished records, even attacks on registration offices that left scorch marks and howls echoing into the night. The disastrous failure unfolded swiftly. By midsummer, half the targeted lycanthropes had gone underground, fleeing to remote moors, or allying with unsavoury elements in Nocturne Alley. Public trust eroded as botched full moon containments led to gruesome incidents. Villages terrorised, Aurors mauled, headlines in the Daily Prophet screaming of lupine chaos. The ministry backpedaled, wrapping the registry amid scandal, but the damage lingered like silver scars. What began as an administrative push exposed deep fractures in wizarding society, where fear masqueraded as policy. This social ostracisation hit hardest in the quiet aftermath. Lycanthropes, once integrated as farmers, healers or scholars. Think of the herbalist in Hogsmeade who brewed remedies by day, found doors slammed shut. Employers shunned them, fearing bites or bad luck. Matches arranged by matchmakers dissolved into broken betrothals. Even Hogwarts turned away applicants whose family trees bore the mark. You might wander Diagon Alley's bustling lanes, only to catch sidelong glances and hurried whispers if your eyes lingered too long on a gaunt figure buying meat by the pound. Families splintered, with parents disowning children post-bite, leaving the afflicted to scrape by in squalor. Pushed to the margins, many turned to the dark arts out of desperation. Why brew wolfsbane when you couldn't afford it? When forbidden rituals promised control or power. Grimoires smuggled from Borgin and Berks taught blood magics to suppress the wolf, shadow charms to hunt undetected, even pacts with vampires for mutual survival. The social exile bred resentment, fueling an underground network where lycanthropes bartered curses for camaraderie. Fenrir Greyback's ilk didn't spring from nowhere. They were forged in this crucible of rejection, their savagery a twisted echo of the world's cruelty. At the heart of it all lay the ministry's glaring inability to handle magical maladies and curses. Post-Secrecy, their scent, Mungo's healers excelled at dragonpox or spattergroit, but lycanthropy, it baffled them. No standardized cure existed, just patchwork suppressants and experimental drafts that often worsened the rage. Curses like the transmogrification hex or ancient Egyptian plagues drew more resources, lavish funding for counter-jinxes, while werewolves got regulatory scraps. Ministers prioritized secrecy over healing, viewing the cursed as liabilities rather than patients. You see it in the ledgers. Vaults full of anti-Muggle memory charms, but empty apothecaries for moon sickness remedies. This neglect rippled outward, intertwining with goblin rebellions and giant wars, as other beings watched wizards falter against their own shadows. Werewolf packs grew bolder, their howls a rebuke to the code's hollow promises. Yet amid the darkness, whispers of reform stirred, accidental magic rites perhaps, or voices from the fringes demanding equity. That fragile tension sets the stage for the Squib rights movement, where those born without wands challenged the very foundations of wizarding purity. Could the outcasts finally claim their place? Or would the ministry double down on division, as the werewolf registration of 1637 crumbled under its own weight, leaving those afflicted souls shunned and scavenging on society's fringes? Another quiet catastrophe simmered in the shadows of wizarding families. Non-magical children born to witch and wizard parents, squibs they were called, faced a heartbreak that cut even deeper. Their very existence, a whispered embarrassment in bloodlines obsessed with purity and power. Picture a newborn cradled in a manor house alive, with flickering flue flames and portraits, murmuring incantations. The parents, proud witches from ancient houses, wait for the first spark of magic, that telltale glow or accidental levitation. But days turn to weeks and nothing comes. No burst of light from tiny fingers, no toys dancing in the air. The child grows, reaching for a wand that rejects them utterly. Spells fizzling into silence on lips that ache to belong. This was the hidden tragedy of squibs. These innocent souls inheriting the weight of secrecy without the gift to wield it. Forever outsiders in the only world they knew. In those early centuries after Hogwarts' founding, squibs weren't entirely unknown. Families might hush them away to remote cousins or Muggle relatives, spinning tales of extended visits to spare the shame. But as Muggle persecutions raged through the Middle Ages, witch hunts with pyres lighting the night skies, wizards clung tighter to their isolation. Godric's Hollow and Hogsmeade became sanctuaries, veiled from prying eyes, where every child was expected to light their first lumos by age 3. A squib child disrupted that fragile harmony, a living reminder that magic wasn't guaranteed, even among the elite. Then came the International Statute of Wizarding Secrecy in 1692, a desperate pact born from centuries of burnings and betrayals. Wizards vanished from Muggle sight, their world shrinking behind layers of charms and memory charms. For squibs, this was no protection. It was a prison. They couldn't attend Hogwarts, forbidden entry without a wand's allegiance. Yet the wizarding world offered no place for them either. No jobs beyond menial drudgery, like scrubbing Gringotts floors or tending nocturne alley rats, all while dodging spells they couldn't counter. Venturing into the Muggle world meant navigating streets teeming with oblivious folk, armed with knowledge of dragons and disillusionment, charms that no one else understood. How do you explain your family's owl post to a Muggle schoolteacher, or blend into a factory job when your tales slip out, inviting suspicion or worse? The statute made squib lives nearly impossible, trapping them in limbo. Too wizarding for Muggles, too Muggle for wizards. Whispers of discontent began in the early 18th century, as the Ministry of Magic solidified in 1707, its corridors echoing with debates on secrecy's toll. Squibs, scattered and silenced, started finding each other through underground pamphlets, slipped into Diagon Alley dustbins or Hogsmeade pub backs. One of the first to raise a voice was Eleanor Vance, born in 1699 to a minor pure bloodline in Wiltshire. Magic skipped her entirely, and by her teens, her parents had confined her to the attic, dosing her with forgetfulness potions to dull her questions about the world beyond. She escaped at 17, disguising herself as a house elf to slip past wards, and made her way to a Muggle orphanage in London. There, amid coal smoke and clanging bells, she thrived, learning to read factory ledgers, marrying a Muggle engineer, raising children who never knew wands existed. Eleanor's story spread like contraband fire whiskey. In 1723, she penned the first Squib Manifesto, Veils of Silence, printed on a Muggle press and smuggled into wizarding tea houses. She argued not for magical cures, none existed, but for integration. Obliviate the memories of willing squibs, grant them new identities in the Muggle realm, free them to live without the Statute's chains. Her words ignited others. There was Tobias Finch, a squib stablehand at the ministry who organised secret meetings in abandoned Azkaban cells, plotting petitions to Minister Ulrich Gamp himself, and Miriam Locke, daughter of a Ravenclaw prefect, who rallied 24 squibs in 1731 to march on Diagon Alley. Unwanted, unmagical, but chanting for the right to cross the Veil, these early activists faced brutal backlash. Pureblood families decried them as traitors. The ministry dismissed their pleas as slappingly sentiment, slapping fines or worse. Enforced obliviation. Eleanor vanished in 1728, rumoured cursed by her own kin. Tobias ended up in a Muggle asylum, his mind frayed by botched memory charms. Yet their fire endured. By mid-century, squib rights circles dotted Britain, from hidden cellars in Tinworth to Muggle border towns, pushing for reforms like an anonymous passage to Muggle society, funded by sympathetic half-blood donors. Petitions piled up, forcing the ministry to acknowledge squibs in law for the first time in 1752. A grudging relocation clause, allowing voluntary exile with sanitised memories. The movement exposed fractures in wizarding pride. Purebloods like the Malfoys railed against diluting the line, while half-blood sympathisers whispered of fairness, long denied to werewolves and giants alike. Squibs became symbols of secrecy's cruelty, their plight a mirror to the world's growing isolation. Quiet victories mounted, safe houses for education in Muggle trades, forged papers for new lives. One activist, a wiry inventor named Silas Broom, even crafted squib kits, bundles of pounds, clothing and instruction manuals for blending into factories or farms. Through it all, the struggle humanized the hidden world. Families began hiding fewer births, some even celebrating squib children as bridges to forgotten freedoms. The statute bent, ever so slightly, under the weight of their persistence. But shadows lingered, whispers of darker forces exploiting squib resentment, pure-blood extremists plotting to phase them out. These battles for belonging set the stage for uneasy peace, a fragile lull where old wounds festered beneath the surface. Up next, Chapter 27. The calm before the storm reveals how that deceptive tranquility masked gathering clouds, pulling the wizarding world toward its most turbulent reckonings yet. As the 19th century drew to a close, the Statute of Secrecy that doomed so many squibs to a shadow existence among Muggle had woven itself even deeper into the fabric of wizarding life, creating a world that felt increasingly like a self-imposed exile. Wizards and witches in Britain moved through their hidden enclaves with a quiet assurance, their days governed by the steady hand of the Ministry of Magic, now well into its second century of operation. Hogsmeade bustled with the familiar rhythm of butterbeer, flowing from the three broomsticks, and Honeyduke's shelves groaning under chocolate frogs that leaped with enchanted vigour. Diagon Alley thrummed as the heart of commerce, where families outfitted their children for Hogwarts, with cauldrons that bubbled softly on display and owls hooting from perches in Elop's Owl Emporium. The air carried the scent of fresh ink from Flourish and Blots, mingled with the earthy tang of potion ingredients, wafting from Slug and Jigger's apothecary. Life seemed orderly, almost idyllic, a fragile peace forged from centuries of strife. The Goblin rebellions quelled, the giant wars pushed to the fringes of memory, werewolf registries enforced with a firm but distant grip. Yet beneath this veneer of calm, the wizarding world, in the late 1800s, stood at a subtle crossroads, isolated not just from Muggles, but from the relentless march of their inventions. Picture the cobblestone streets of wizarding villages, lit by flickering flue flames and ever-burning lanterns, while across the Vale, Muggle London exploded into a haze of steam and iron. The first locomotives chugged across Britain, shrieking their whistles as they hauled masses of people at speeds that would have awed even the swiftest broomstick rider. Telegraphs clicked out messages in Morse code, binding distant cities in instant communication, and electric lights began to pierce the night in grand halls and factories. Wizards, bound by ancient prejudices and the practical perils of magic interfering with machinery, turned their noses up at such contraptions. Why bother with a sputtering motor when you could apparate? Why string wires when owls delivered parcels with unerring precision? Fire calls crackled in hearths for face-to-face talks, and portraits relayed news with animated gossip. But as the decades ticked by, this complacency bred a growing rift. Muggle ingenuity surged forward. Telephones soon to ring in homes, automobiles rumbling down roads, while the wizarding world clung to broomsticks that creaked under the weight of progress and quills that scratched eternal records. The technological gap between Muggles and wizards began to widen, not just in gadgets, but in the sheer scale of their worlds. Wizards wielded power over elements and minds, yet Muggles were reshaping the earth itself, building empires of steel that no spell could easily rival. This divide whispered unease through the corridors of power, even as the Ministry's Department of Magical Law Enforcement patrolled with auras, whose wands gleamed under enchanted street lamps. Pure-blood families, like the Malfoys, lounged in manors warded against intrusion, their libraries stuffed with tomes on blood status that the Sacred 28 Directory had so meticulously catalogued. Half-bloods and Muggle-borns navigated society with quiet determination, their talents shining at Hogwarts, where the Sorting Hat still pondered loyalties in its frayed brim. Quidditch matches drew roaring crowds to stadiums alive with the thwack of bludgers and the cheer of victory, a distraction from the undercurrents of old grudges. The air in the Great Hall would fill with the aroma of roast beef and pumpkin juice during feasts, house elves darting invisibly to refill goblets, while professors like the stern but fair headmaster Phineas Nigellus Black lectured on the supremacy of tradition. Goblin bankers in Gringotts tallied fortunes in vaults deep underground, their clawed hands etching ledgers with grudging precision after the last rebellion's bitter end. Werewolves slunk to the edges, their full moons marked by howls that echoed unanswered, and giants nursed ancient wounds in mountain crags, their thunderous steps a fading rumble. Into this poised tranquility stepped a figure whose brilliance would one day eclipse them all. A young Albus Dumbledore, born in 1881 to a modest family in the quiet village of Godric's Hollow. Even as a boy, his eyes sparkled with an insatiable curiosity, poring over his father's collection of esoteric texts by wandlight that danced shadows across walls lined with faded family portraits. Tragedy struck early. His sister Ariana, gifted yet fragile, shattered by a Muggle attack that unleashed uncontrollable magic, confining her to a life of hidden pain in their home. Albus, the eldest, shouldered responsibility young, his grief sharpening his intellect like a whetstone on steel. By his time at Hogwarts, sorted into Gryffindor, he dazzled professors with transfiguration feats that bent reality into impossible forms and charms that hummed with elegant precision. Whispers followed him through the castle's drafty halls, of spells cast flawlessly under pressure, of debates in the library that left seventh years speechless. But it was in the summer of 1899, at 15, that destiny coiled tighter. Visiting his aunt in Godric's Hollow, he encountered Gellert Grindelwald, a teenage prodigy exiled from Durmstrang, his silver tongue weaving visions of wizard supremacy. Together, they dreamed in fevered nights by the fireside, the crackle of logs underscoring plots to seize the deathly Hallows and cast off the Statute's chains. Grindelwald's fervour ignited something in Dumbledore, a philosophy that would haunt him. Acting for the greater good, for the wizard's greater good, they murmured. Muggles could be subjugated, their chaotic inventions tamed under magical rule, the old orders upended, pure bloods and talented blood traitors alike, leading a new world order. Scribbled notes flew between them, filled with symbols of the Hallows and maps of conquest, the air thick with the scent of ink and ambition. Ariana's cries from upstairs faded into their grand designs, a poignant reminder of magic's cost. Yet cracks formed swiftly. Family duty clashed with revolutionary fire, ending their pact in a duel that scorched the garden and severed their paths. Those whispers of the greater good lingered, though, echoing through Dumbledore's future like a half-forgotten incantation, a seed of ideology that would bloom in darker storms ahead. This calm, you see, was but the hush before thunder, the wizarding world savouring its secrets, while the Muggle tide swelled beyond the horizon. Ancient legacies slumbered deeper still, waiting to stir. Join me next for Chapter 28, The Legacy of the Ancients, where forgotten powers from epochs long buried begin to whisper back to life, reshaping everything you thought you knew. As the 19th century faded into memory, the wizarding world lingered in a fragile peace, its ancient secrets tucked away, while Muggle smokestacks belched progress into the skies. Wizards clung to their candles and owls, watching from shadowed alleys as electric lights flickered to life across London. Yet beneath that calm surface stretched a tapestry woven over 2,000 years, every thread a lesson in survival, every knot a scar from battles long buried. Wandless first flickered into being around 382 BC, when a lone craftsman in distant Europe birthed the Ollivander line, carving cores from hearts of trees and veins of beasts. Spells that once danced from fingertips now surged through polished wood, sharper, deadlier. Across the vast sands of Africa, the school of Uagadou had already taken root. Perhaps 1,000 years earlier, its students summoning stars with bare hands, twisting their own flesh into new forms without a stick to guide them. These were the ancients, you see, living openly among Muggles, who revered them as gods or feared them as demons. Their magic a river, flowing unchecked through villages and courts, but rivers carve canyons. By the 10th century, that openness curdled into terror. Muggle kings rallied torches and pitchforks, branding witches as heretics, their pyres lighting the night from Kent to the Highlands. 4 visionaries rose against the storm: Godric Gryffindor, with his lion-hearted charge; Helga Hufflepuff, steady as the earth; Rowena Ravenclaw, mind like a constellation; and Salazar Slytherin, serpent-sharp and unyielding. They conjured Hogwarts from the crags of Scotland, veiling it in enchantments that turned stone walls to crumbling ruins in non-magical eyes. Houses bloomed within, sorting souls by firelight, but harmony fractured swiftly. Slytherin dreamed of blood purity, sealing his venomous legacy in the Chamber of Secrets, a basilisk's lair meant to purge the unworthy. He left the Sorting Hat as his parting curse, its brim whispering divisions that echoed for centuries. Rowena's own daughter Helena fled with the lost diadem, a crown of wit twisted by vanity, vanishing into Albanian wilds. From those shadowed halls, games took flight on broomtails near Quidditch Marsh, Gertie Keddle's quills scratching the first rules as players chased enchanted balls through storm-lashed skies. The Triwizard tournament ignited in the late 13th century, champions from Hogwarts, Orbatons, and Durmstrang plunging into Dragonfire and Merfolk depths, forging fragile alliances amid the cheers. Legends crystallized too. The deathly Hallows, born of Peverell ambition in those same 120s, Elder Wand and claiming masters, Resurrection Stone teasing the grave, Invisibility Cloak draping the clever in night. Ignotus Peverell's line endured, a quiet vein of power pulsing toward a boy unborn. Across oceans, Native American Wandless masters communed with beasts and roots, their potions bubbling secrets Europe could only envy. Broomsticks bridging continents long before Muggle sails. Wizards' councils held sway without crowns, dispensing justice from hidden chambers, until persecution's blade forced the Great Retreat. Villages like Godric's Hollow sprang up, havens of mixed blood and murmured spells. Hogsmeade gleamed all wizard, its lights a defiant glow. Diagon Alley coiled into being, Gringotts vaults groaning under goblin-forged gold, shops hawking cauldrons and cores. The International Statute of Wizarding Secrecy sealed it all in 1692, a global vow of silence, magic's brilliance dimmed to whispers behind Fidelius charms and memory potions. Britain's Ministry of Magic crystallised in 1707 under Ulrich Gamp, supplanting councils with bureaucracy's iron grip. Azkaban's chill towers rising to cage the unruly. Goblin rebellions scarred the earth repeatedly, wands clashing with blades over rights denied, their rage a simmering undercurrent. Werewolves howled under failed codes, squibs slipped into Muggle shadows, giants retreated to mountain graves. Their cultures pulverized, histories rewritten by ministry quills. This, then, is how 2,000 years of history created the world Harry Potter entered. A labyrinth of concealed spires and unspoken pacts, where every flue call hummed with caution, every wand flick carried the weight of witch hunts past. Recurring themes wove through it all. Secrecy, born of flames licking at Hogwarts' hidden gates. Blood, from Slytherin's schism to pure blood mantras chanted in shadowed parlours. And the cost of power, exacted in unforgivable curses' green flash, in Horcrux's soul-shredding hunger, in rebellions that left fields soaked and families sundered. Those dark eras linger like ghosts in the castle corridors, defining the modern magical identity. The Slytherin schism birthed Voldemort's echo. Pre-Secrecy hunts mandated the Statute's chains. Goblin wars and werewolf edicts fueled underclass fury. Even Flamel's stone whispered immortality's cruel price. Giant's erasure a void of forgotten lore. Harry stepped into a world forged in these fires, its fractures his inheritance. Bravery tested against blood purists, intellect piercing secrecy's veil, loyalty demanding power's steep toll. The Ancient's legacy endures not in triumph, but in the quiet vigilance of a boy with a scar, reminding every witch and wizard that light casts long shadows. What did you think of this journey? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If this changed your perspective or taught you something new, consider subscribing for more mind-expanding content. And if you know someone who would find this as fascinating as you did, these are the kind of conversations that matter.